I hear them singing, but I hope I see you coming united. I know that we could build something. You are invited to heal America. United, I know we could build something. You are invited to heal America. United, I know we can build something. Healed, whole, united. But the people need to know that healing is available. So I wrote these words of empowerment. They say, dear everybody. And by everybody, I do mean everybody. This is not a message for any target markets or particular classes. You see, body of, by definition, means a large amount or the masses. May these words be your Damascus, the light that blinds you into perfect sight so that you'll know whatever the mask is you were wearing will no longer be necessary. I see you. It's okay to be you. You see, I'm not talking scientific matter when I say that there's a power within you, and it's special. It's something that only you possess. And in case you haven't heard it in a while, you are a king, a queen. You are royalty regardless of your riches. In fact, the major truth is if you spend your entire life chasing C notes, you'd be like those who often catch early graves. In other words, you'd be flat. So I implore you to embrace a stark reality that your value is not predicated on the subject of your possessions. You possess a power. So protect it. And everybody that allows toxicity to sit too long grows infected. So rid yourself of all things emotionally, spiritually, and relationally harmful. Everybody needs a detox. And don't spend more time trying to express yourself than refresh yourself, or more energy trying to exert that you just wind up being an irk. It's not worth it. America, take time to evict emotions that can no longer afford to take up residence within you. Take time to spring clean spiritually, which just may entail purging yourself of people who pain you. Please don't be puzzled if it's not a perfect fit. There are millions of people with whom you can try to connect. And when you do, recognize when you come across a real one and be faithful. Be grateful and always be thankful. Thankful for the good that God has brought you to. Remembering to remember the good that God has brought you from. You know how we're always saying, thy kingdom come, because your best days are ahead of you, not back in the day. And life may be difficult sometimes, but you are geared for this, so keep grinding. Now go. Be the revolution that this world still needs to see. Signed, Sha Speaks.
It's midnight in America. What I'm fighting more than anything is individuals who have lost hope.
You're living in the hood around a bunch of violence.
Gangs, drugs,
pimping.
Babies teaching babies.
It's survival as opposed to living.
We thought
the way to get the world was through selling drugs.
Yeah, I want me to tell the truth.
Welcome to the D.
It's an international city, all-American city.
It's definitely a tale of two cities.
A flourishing north side.
25 Fortune 500 firms.
And then you had a languishing southern Dallas, where half of the population lives, but only 15% of the tax base.
Before you know it,
It started World War III in the ghetto. The prison was a command post. It's the machine for whatever happened on the street.
And the machine has to be fed. The system is so thorough and gobbling up innocence.
Poverty has reached new depths.
There is growing outrage tonight after an unarmed African-American teenager was shot and killed by police.
That officer is not moving.
There are no words to describe the atrocity that occurred.
This issue has reached a boiling point.
I was the first gang specialist for the state.
Omar's look itself was real urban. Everybody thought he was a drug dealer.
that's suicide. I remember saying that to him. I said, man, that's suicide.
It becomes so disarming that they said, teach me then, brother. Finding the redemptive nature of people who have been assaulted and cause them to not respond in rage, but to respond in purpose. Urban culture must transform. Urban Specialist is the movement.
I carry the burden of a lot of my friends who dead behind this idea.
You want real power, empower somebody that think they're weak and remind them that they're strong.
Challenge your mental toughness right here, fellas.
Give your all in that, everything you got.
Empower a brother coming out of prison.
21 years, you can't get that back.
And say, you my hero.
They put me on that pedestal. Go get it.
Hope keeps you going when you don't have product. It's nothing like being hopeful that you can make it, man. And they become so empowered. They start breaking the chains. That gives you the ability to go places that you never thought you could go.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lucky Azariah.
Time and the living is easy. Fish are jumping and the cotton is your dad is rich and your mama's good looking. So hush, little baby, don't you cry. One of these mornings, you're gonna rise up singing and spread your wings and take to the sky. But till that morning, oh, nothing's gonna harm you. With Daddy and Mommy standing by. Summertime and the living is easy. Fish are jumping and the cotton is high. Your daddy's rich and your mommy's good looking. So hush, little baby, don't you cry. One of these mornings, you're gonna rise up singing and spread your wings and take to the sky. But till that morning, oh, nothing's gonna harm you. Daddy and Mommy standing by. take to the sky. But till that morning, oh, nothing's gonna harm you. With mommy and daddy standing by. With mommy and daddy standing by. With mommy and daddy standing by.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nia Cooks.
Hill America! Nia! Let's go. Let's get it. The devil been counting me out. I'm counting these heads and I will not miss. Healing America, this is my passion. This pain is making me sick. Bishop is coming, OGs are coming. Bishop Sheila creating a list. Imps play dirty, but I will not worry because the mission is to get them hit. Staying on task and I will not slip. Keep God with me when I represent. Gotta get lit every stage that I hit. Some said it's no God, believe what you wish. Roll with some G's, I love them to death. Loyal to God, not all people do. What good is the bread if you do not know God? Let me introduce them to you. That's my main mission, that's why I can't quit. People want power and want to get rich. Gotta stay holy when I want a trip. Too many Judas that sit in the midst. Back when Granny was praying for this. People say Jesus don't even exist. I don't be for the devil for nothing. And when I come for him, it's gonna be legit. Won't be for clout, won't be for fame. It won't be people screaming my name. Won't be to sell my latest music. We healing America, these people in pain. Everyone knows I'm true to the game. Everything grows but won't be the same. I hope you pray every mission you gain. Pray that these haters just stay in their lane. To the OGs, I'm thanking you now. Don't have to do it but holding it down. Watching your movements, respecting your style. Thank God for grace is the greatest right now. Don't wanna hit me, that is your choice. I don't do promos, still made all this noise. We got permission, I set my intentions, I promise. All my people gon' rejoice. The devil been counting me out, I'm counting these hands and I will not miss. Healing America, this is my passion. This pain is making me sick. Bishop is coming, OGs are coming. Bishop Sheila creating the list. Imps play dirty, but I will not worry because the mission is to get them hit. Yeah!
Holy Ghost got you.
It got me feeling some type of way, y'all.
Salvation is free.
Salvation is free. And it's real.
I'm never giving up.
I ain't never giving up. We gotta start somewhere, y'all.
Holy Ghost got you.
It got me feeling some type of way.
Salvation is free. Yes, it's real.
I promise it's real.
Promise that
I ain't never giving up.
Listen.
I'm in the middle of two generations. I'm little sis and big sis all at once. Just left the studio with that boy tracks just to eat them demons for lunch. Had a long talk with my Bishop Sheila, right hand on the Bible. I promise she real. Straight out that gutter, was born out the trust, and then I met Jesus. That all got killed. Wanna see Jesus, don't wanna see hell. We not the same, we are not parallel. We coming from a long bloodline of drama. We raised by our mamas, God, we gotta heal. Hurting our people, these babies are real. Killing the bloodline just to make a deal. Distorting the images so we can fail. Living for God, I gotta prevail. Yeah!
Holy Ghost got you, girl.
Think back.
Salvation is free.
On what God has brought you from. And know that God is real.
Giving up.
I ain't never giving up. I'm raising young kings and queens. They gotta grow up.
Salvation
and I want them to know they're destined for greatness. I promise I'm never giving up.
We gotta heal America. The pain is real.
You looking at a young lady that was supposed to do 365 years in prison, who was on a pole, who sold dope, but it was nobody but God. It was nobody but God that brought me out. It was nobody but God that did this. He healed me. It was nobody but God. They ask me why I do it. I tell them for the king. Y'all ready? Ha! Yeah.
It's me in the building.
It's me in the building, y'all.
I know y'all been waiting.
A lot of people been waiting.
I know y'all been anticipating.
A lot of people been anticipating.
This is not a mirage.
I am not a mirage.
And no, it's not a dream.
Wake up!
It's official.
It's official.
I'm back.
Yes, me and I know the devil hated. Queens on the throne and I know y'all been waiting. Yeah, I'm back and it's mine for the taking. Put me in the booth and it's hits that I'm making. Yeah, y'all know me and what I'm repping. RPM and it's mics that I'm blessing. No, I ain't leaving, ain't no need for no stressing. It plotting on me cause the devil's getting restless. I know you hate and you wanna take me out. I'm known up in the east, but I'm a beast up in the south. Life and death on the tongue, got your mouth. Sit back and think before you ever spit it out. You know what I'm about. How I stay ready, keep the speakers on bump in the lag, she was Chevy. Now I'm walking heavy, wait to be addressed and I'm living for the king because you know that he the best. Yeah. They ask me why I do it, I say for the king. Ruler over all and yeah, everything. They telling me I'm doing this just for fun. The devil is a lie, I do it for the sun. They ask me why I do it, I say for the king. Ruler over all and yeah, everything. They telling me I'm doing this just for fun. The devil is a lie, I do it for the sun. Sit back, just relax, watch the girl reckless. Nia in the building, it's about to get hectic. Hold on my own, ain't no scared, no flexing. Stand on my knees because I'm praying and I'm pressing. They're looking for me, but they don't know where to find me. I be in the shadows with my almighty hides. Trying to make deals and you think that you can buy me. Come get me if you really want to try me. Said I wouldn't make it, you know that was a no-no. Came a long way from the club and the yayo. Guns and the dudes in, don't forget the bankroll. Steady getting bread, keep my business on the low-low. Oh yeah, I really made it down. Now I understand what my deal talked about. Hustled it and gone and the woman came out. See, I'ma bring the rain, no need for the drug, yeah. They ask me why I do it, I say for the king. Ruler over all and yeah, everything. They telling me I'm doing this just for fun. The devil is a lie, I do it for the sun. I'm over here working, coming for the camp and you know this for certain. Get the word and it's time for some learning. Flesh down daily, it's the devil that we working. Yeah! Guess who back? Mine don't go with my feet on track. And I made my choice that I ain't going back. God over hip-hop, ministry, and rap. My time, yeah, it's my season. People at my table don't like what's to eat. The table is prepared, don't trip on the reason. Trust in God and it's me that is keeping. Y'all didn't think it was a go. I make so much weight, people surf on my flow. Creative ideas in my mind like, whoa. Thousand across third day heroes, yeah. They ask me why I do it, I say for my king. They ask me why I do this. Ruler over all and yeah, everything. It's the man that saved me. They telling me I'm it's the man that brought me out. For fun. It's the man that healed my body. Is a lie, I do it for the sun. They ask me why I do it, I say for the king. Ruler over all and yeah, everything. They telling me I'm doing this just for fun. The devil is a lie, I do it for the sun. Chicago, stand up.
Greetings, Chicago. Welcome to Heal America, a course correction conversation on race, citizenship, and humanity. The Urban Specialists, in partnership with Stand Together, welcome you into this pivotal moment that will devote to turning grief and anger into action in order to create solutions that will heal America.
Sometimes life can change suddenly, that you find it hard to even breathe. So used to being strong that I'm barely hanging on. Gotta stand tall, or too many will fall. What would people say if they knew I felt this way? That God gave me this refrain: I'll never be the same. He reminded me that He would always be with us. Yes, He is. God is with us. Yeah. So be of good courage. Be of good courage. God is with us. Oh, He is. I will not leave you, no, I will not leave you. I will not leave you. I will not leave you. So be of good courage, for God is with us, even until the ends of the earth. So be, won't you be of good courage? God is with us. Yes, He is. Oh, God is with us. Oh, even until the ends of the earth. God is with us. Yes, He is. God is with us.
At this point, Please welcome one of the Heal America's tour staple pastors, Harry Sewell, who will lead us in prayer and invocation.
Praise the Lord. If you're glad to be here tonight, say amen. Oh, come on, we do better than that. If you're glad to be here tonight, say amen. Again, I'm Pastor Harry Sewell. I want to thank Bishop for allowing me to be here tonight with Heal America. It's a great opportunity, and I appreciate what he's doing all across this great nation of ours, helping to heal America. Got 3 verses of Scripture I'd like to read for you tonight before we pray. And just say this as I get started. The young preacher said, it's good to be here tonight. The old preacher stood up and said, it's good to be anywhere tonight. So I'm that old preacher that's saying, hey, it's good to be anywhere tonight, but it's especially to be good to be right here with Heal America. Psalms 133 says this, behold, how good and how pleasant it is for the brethren to dwell together in unity. It is like the precious ointment upon the head that ran down upon the beard, even Aaron's beard that went down to the skirts of his garments. As the dew of Hermon, and as the dew that descended upon the mountains of Zion, for there the Lord commanded the blessing, even life forevermore. I want to go back over this and make a couple of quick points. The Bible says, behold. That word, everybody say behold. That word behold means to stand back and gaze upon. And the writer says, behold, how good and how pleasant it is for the brethren to dwell together in unity. Not just to dwell together, but to dwell together in unity. I can tell you that Heal America here tonight and our panelists, we are all here in unity. How many know everything works better together? Come on, give me an amen. Everything works better together. They dwell together in unity. Listen, everything works better together. If you only had 2 teeth in your whole head, they work better together. Everything works better together. And he said, not just dwell together, but dwell together in unity. I know some folks that are dwelling together in my church, some husbands and wives, but they are not in unity. It's one thing to dwell together. Come on, somebody. It's another thing to dwell together in unity. And I am thankful for the unity tonight that we have with Bishop Omar and the team called Heal America. He said, it is like the precious ointment upon the head that ran down upon the beard, even Aaron's beard that went down to the skirts of his garments. Listen, this blessing, hey, it went from the top of his head to the soles of his feet. How many here tonight can say, I could stand a blessing from the top of my head to the sole of my feet? Come on, somebody. I'm telling you, I could stand a blessing tonight from the top of my head to the soles of my feet. And then verse 3 says, as the dew of Hermon, and as the dew that descended upon the mountains of Zion, for there the Lord commanded the blessing, even life forevermore. Listen to me. When we dwell together in unity, the Lord does not suggest a blessing. He commands a blessing. Everybody say command. Come on, say command. Because we are here tonight dwelling together in unity with Heal America and Bishop Omar. I'm telling you on the authority of the Word of God that God is commanding a blessing upon every song we sing, every word we say, every testimony is going to be given, everything going to be said by Bishop tonight. And the panelists, somebody give me a hearty amen. Come on, let's give the Lord a hand of praise in His house tonight. Amen. Come on. Bible says, clap your hands, all the people, and shout to God with a voice of victory. Hey, we're the head and not the tail. We're the winner and not the loser. We're the success and not the failure. We're above and not beneath. Come on, somebody. Let's pray. Father, we love you tonight. Thank you for your many, many, many blessings in our life. Thank you for one more day of life and breath and health and strength, privilege and opportunity to worship you. Thank you for Bishop Omar and Heal America that is making a difference across this nation. Thank you for all that he's doing. And as I pray tonight, Father, your word says, not my word, your word says that life and blessing is in the choice of the words that we choose to speak. It's in the power of the tongue. And I choose words of life tonight over the bishop and Heal America, of continued blessing. It's already being blessed. I pray for continued blessing. Give him wisdom, not only man's wisdom and his wisdom, but wisdom from above as he's making a decision about this great ministry going across the nation. And we thank you for it tonight. And it's in Jesus' name that we pray. I said it's in Jesus' name that we pray. And everybody said together in unity, amen and amen. Come on, give the Lord one more hand of praise and the bishop. God bless you. We love you tonight.
Now let's welcome our moderators for the evening. Bishop Omar Jawar, the founder and CEO of Urban Specialists, and Stand Together Vice President, Dr. John Harden.
Good evening, everyone. We are so happy to be here. Thank you for coming out. Dr. John, I'm glad you're here with us.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
This is going to be a very moving conversation. Chicago, we're so happy to be in this city. Thank you for your hospitality. We've been here for a few days. This is a very serious night. It's a stirring night. I've been thinking about this for the last few weeks, about Chicago. You know, it's almost like we stand here knowing that there is some issues, but we live in hope. We live in belief. We live in that moment that says that we can go beyond polarized ideas. You know, there is a problem with black citizenship in America. For the last 25, almost 30 years, I've been working to end senseless violence, working with gang leaders and all of that in prisons. And for the last couple of years, John, I've been just thinking about this on a greater stage, saying if those who are most vulnerable can find peace, there has to be a way that we transcend this vitriolic, polarized idea. I gotta be honest, man, I'm very moved and troubled because I saw the debate last night. I saw what I believe was a moment of disappointment. Because, see, when you put in the air that there is no hope, those who are clinging to that last moment, they tend to let go. But I want everyone to hear me, and I want you who are watching online. We have those who are here, and I want you to know that we are socially distanced, so we are practicing a very staged but very safe environment. But I want you who are here and those who are listening, I want you to know that there is hope. I didn't hear you. I said there is hope.
Amen.
We are not hopeless. And I'm troubled tonight, man. I got to be honest with you. My soul is troubled because I know where we are. In many areas, violence, overcriminalization, poverty, education. There are worlds that have not connected to black citizenship. And we are at this moment saying, how do we get back from this? And that's why we are addressing these issues tonight. So I want you to really tune in, open up your heart, but we just won't deal with the problems. We will offer solutions, and I believe that we will be better from this conversation. Do you agree? So we're going to be better, and I'm glad you're here. And John, Dr. John, who is my personal friend, but man, thank you.
No, we're happy to be here as well. And like you said, like Pastor Sewell said before we even came out here, you know, the key, right, is that we are better together. We are better together in love. We are better together in unity. That's what this is about, exactly what you're saying, the connections, bringing all of us together from different backgrounds, different perspectives, different walks of life, all coming together, being united really in those core principles of our culture, of our country, of our society, of empowerment, of inclusion, of equal justice. We come together united in that, and then as you said, we then move from this place of anger and despair and grief to a place of hope, a place of unity, and then together we're going to move to solutions. Right, we're going to get it done. We're going to get stuff done.
Yes, do y'all agree with Dr. John?
Yeah.
I want everyone in here to say, we shall heal.
We shall
say
heal.
It, say, we shall heal.
We shall.
And we're going to do it together. So I'm very, very, very excited about this. So this is real. We've seen transformation up close. Some of the people that you'll talk to, I'm so happy. I see my brother, Tory Barrett. I went to Clio, which is a community organization that's doing phenomenal things in Chicago. And I went there yesterday and I saw young men who were boys trying to figure out what do they do. And then they ended up being men who are employing other young men just like them. And all of them said, because we were mentored by a brother Tory, he was here. And I've seen what a barrier being broken feels like. See, when you break open that thing and get close, you can go beyond that moment of despair and get to hope, but you got to walk through it. So we've been doing this for decades. We've been doing it through places all over the country. So I know that healing is possible. See, the reason I'm convinced, because I've seen it too many times. And tonight, I think you're going to experience that. So though we will deal with serious issues, this is not kumbaya, this is not playing, but we will end in a place where solutions and hope abide.
Yeah, well, and that's what we love about everything that you've done, Urban Specialists, this partnership, right? Because in the organizations that you're talking about, because you have gotten it, because it's easy, I think, for us to say, we're going to move to solutions, we're going to get this done. But it could just be an empty platitude. I think we've all seen that. People make these promises and they don't get there because they're not in the trenches doing the work.
Right.
And that's what y'all are doing. That's what the people in this room are doing, in the trenches doing the work. That's why Stand Together is so excited to be partnered up with all of you, right? We all come together, like we were saying, in unity and love, and we're going to get stuff done. We're going to have these conversations, walk through these challenging moments, acknowledging them, but then we're going to move through them to solutions.
Yeah, so I love it. So I'm ready. So I'm ready to do this tonight. Y'all ready? I can't feel you. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to walk right to this moment. Now, before we get going, and John, I know you are, John is going to help me moderate. He's one of the great moderators and interpreters. I love my brother. He is a great brother. But John, before we do that, I'm going to let you catch your breath because I want to bring on this stage, before I bring my brother on stage, I want to do something else.
Yeah.
We were in Atlanta. We were in Atlanta.
That's right.
A month ago?
It was a month, yeah.
About a month ago, we did a Heal America in Atlanta. And we had a profound conversation. I don't know if you guys know who Dr. E. Dewey Smith is, but Dr. E. Dewey Smith has one of the great churches. It's called House of Hope in Atlanta. About, thousands and thousands of members. And he gave us a riveting conversation. And he and I have developed a relationship based on this. So I said to Dr. E. Dewey, I want you to talk to me in Chicago. So before we get going on this, I want to bring him on. Is Dr. E. Dewey, are you there?
Yes, sir, I am, Bishop. How are you?
Hey, man. Would y'all give Dr. E. Dewey Smith a hand? One of the great leaders of our nation. Doc, we've been talking, and I so appreciate you because you've been honest with me, honest with a lot of us about the challenge. And he's also lended us some of your members down here with me, so I ain't gonna try to steal them. I'm gonna send them back, but I'm gonna use them right now. But I appreciate that. But Doc, you gave us a challenge, man. You was harsh in your rebuke of America. And then you talked to me afterwards and said, well, listen, Bishop, some people are loving critics, and you said it so beautifully, but I wanted to just offer you this opportunity because there's some people in this room around the country that's feeling overwhelmed. What would you say to us?
First of all, let me thank you for the incredible vision that you have manifested. I want to thank you, Bishop, for your decades of service to try to bring people together and bring positivity and healing to the world. So you ought to be commended for this Heal America tour, so God bless you.
Bless you, sir.
The late, great James Baldwin once said that in this life, while it is true that everything that is faced can't be fixed, it is also true that nothing can be fixed until it is faced. And when we talk about healing, I think it's so important that to understand just intrinsic in the word healing is the fact that there's a pain. Or there's a fact that there's a need for a panacea. And the challenge here in America is we have to admit that we're hurting, that something is diseased. You can't heal what you conceal. And what has happened in America, I believe, and I want to say it very humbly and very lovingly, is that we still have yet to atone for America's original sins that were committed prior to Columbus getting lost coming here, the treatment of Native Americans, for the West Africans that were stripped from their homes and brought through the Middle Passage, through the transatlantic, 250 years of slavery, Reconstruction, Plessy versus Ferguson, Jim Crow, heinous treatment of women, xenophobia, sexism, and even to this present day. And yet what I'm hearing from a lot of our nation's leaders is a whitewashing of America's history to act as if America has always been this wonderful, great place that has treated everybody with decency and a sense of humanity. And I don't care what kind of books of how you try to have this revisionist history of America, until we go deep to really understand that there are some systemic issues that affect us, we can't find healing until we admit that we're hurting. And what is happening now, we need racial diversity, we need racial sensitivity, we need training. And because I say that, it does not mean that I don't love America. There are three types of people. That first type of person is what I want to call, Bishop, the unloving critic. That's the person who has no love for it, so they always criticize it. Nothing you can do is right because they're unloving critics. But then you have the second category that are uncritical lovers. They love it so much that they're blind to the issues and want to act as if everything's wonderful. But what we need is not unloving critics or uncritical lovers. What we need is loving critics. James Baldwin says that because I love America dearly, I have a right to criticize her perpetually. And so my criticisms and my statements tonight are not in an attempt to destroy or to be destructive, but for us to really understand that we don't understand each other. Our cultures, our conversations are different, and until we admit there's a problem, to come to understand each other. When somebody else says, make America great again, they don't understand that brings up anxiety and fear in somebody else, because what do you mean by that? Right. Make America great again, make America great for whom? What period are you trying to return to? What are you nostalgic about? Do you want to return to segregation? Do you want to turn to when my friends of a lighter hue, when their fathers could drink out of water fountains and mine couldn't? So what do you want to go back to? So I think sometimes we don't understand that our language is divisive. Right. And until we can have these conversations to understand each other, I think we'll continue to perpetuate these problems.
And Doc, I'm gonna tell you something. I heard your passion. There's a lot of people tonight that feel that passion and that pain and that seriousness, because when you see Breonna Taylor verdict, you see, Ahmaud Arbery, you see George Floyd, you can't escape it without saying there's a problem. I understood it. But I'm gonna tell you what gave me hope is after we had our discussions and after we talked, when you said to me, Bishop, but I believe if we start having these kinds of conversations, we can heal, and we are not hopeless. See, I'm glad you said that at the end, because I don't want anybody to leave feeling like, hey man, we gotta just destroy it, it can never come back. But that we can live up to the unalienable rights that are endowed to us by our Creator. We have to force the system to operate in its purest form. And we need people like you, and I think people like me, and people like John, and people like Stand Together to say that we can do this. Doc, do you believe we can do it?
Hey, no doubt about it, Bishop. We don't have to have the same backgrounds. We don't have to have the same stories. We can come from different cultures, but a respect for humanity. Dr. King said we're caught up in an inescapable network of mutuality. And what affects one in one place affects another in another place.
Yes.
And we can connect with the heart.
Yes.
And realize that what we need right now, in my opinion, is not to be focused on whether we represent politically an elephant or a donkey. But what I believe we need the spirit of the Lamb. That's the Lamb of Jesus Christ that can bring us together, who taught us to love one another and treat each other with decency, humanity, and respect. And we've lost the sense of all civility, all humanity, and respect. And my prayer tonight is that as we talk from different sides of the spectrum, we don't have to all see things the same way. But we can treat each other with the Imago Dei and see the Imago Dei, the image of God. And every man, every woman, no matter what their background, their race, their religion, their faith, their orientation, who they love, if we can respect people and find a sense of connection with humanity and really listen to each other and talk to people that we're different from to understand each other's fears, I think this world can be changed. But it's going to take sensitivity and a heart and a respect for all of humanity.
Doc, would y'all please give it up for Dr. E. Dewey Smith? Come on, please give it up, Doc. I love you, man. You know we're gonna do this. We will heal America. I promise you we're gonna get better. And as we heal America, we're gonna heal the Atlanta Falcons. Y'all give it up for Doc. Y'all give it up for Doc. I appreciate it, man. John, I had to get it one time, you know. But Dallas Cowboys did beat them. Look, y'all, Dr. John, we're gonna get on this movement now, and now I want to bring up someone who is from here to start this night off. My son came to Columbia here in Chicago. He's a musician. He is here. I love my son. He is a wonderful representative, but Chicago treated us well. And my brother, Tory, gave him a place to live, and he started playing in bands and all this kind of stuff, man. I love Chicago, so I owe you a debt of gratitude. That's one reason that we are here, so I appreciate it. But it was a young man, his name was Vic Mensa. And my son was telling me, Pop, he's gonna be a, and I said, well, you better get your Vic self in class, because I didn't know who Vic Mensa was. But as the years have went on, I have seen this young man be such a representative of talent, artistry, mindfulness. He is one of the great entertainers in America, but he's Chicago's own Vic Mensa, and he is here tonight. So I want you to welcome Vic Mensa to the stage. Come on, y'all give it up, Chicago. This is your own Vic.
How you doing, man? What's going on, brother?
Bless you, man. You know, Brother Vic, I so appreciate you coming out. I was listening at your music, man. You are a brilliant artist in so many ways.
Thank you.
What motivates you to do the kind of music that you do that's so transformative?
You know, I find that the music is my own way of healing, and the music is therapy for me. So if I can unpack things that I might not have been able to process in my own life, I can help give, you know, a window of hope to somebody else. So it's, you know, beneficial for everybody, I feel.
You know, Vic, you know where America is right now. You see how tenuous, man. It's a lot of violence. It's us versus them. And when I've been listening, because I've been listening to music, I got Orange Soda. I got that song way back in the day. Don't y'all worry about that. That was one of his first projects. But I've been listening at how you use this kind of language in this dialogue. I've been seeing some of you young guys because I really appreciate it. Tell me, do you believe that your music can inspire this change on the ground, or what are you doing? Is it just coming from your soul? Just let me know.
You know, I think change comes on a personal level, you know what I'm saying? It's like change and transformation. If you change, you help one person to transform, help one person to transform their thought process and their behaviors, and they influence somebody else, then it's like, you know, Tupac said, I might not start the revolution, but I'm gonna inspire the person that will start the revolution. I think that when we look at these moments of uprising and change, that we be wary of trying to judge them on whether everything is better tomorrow, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And as long as we still are pushing in the right direction and working towards the future that we want to give to our kids and our kids and our kids' kids, they still gonna have work to do, you know what I mean? Right. You can't separate America from its evils, you know what I'm saying? But you can teach our people how to rise above them, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. You know, Vic, I was looking at the news, man, and they said, 40-something young people were shot, 8 killed in Chicago over a weekend. Mm-hmm. When people hear Chicago, they either hear the artistry or they think about the violence. You being here, what do you say to those who might say, man, why are they so violent, or what can we do to help stop what has become an epidemic of violence in Chicago?
100%. You know, when you look at violence in the city of Chicago, Chicago is often used as this scapegoat example of extreme criminals, black male criminality, but really Chicago is just it's just a microcosm for every hood USA. You know what I mean? Chicago is a representation of the poisoned mindsets that we've been brought up in. And as far as impacting it, you know, it's like, I think that we just gotta look at the reasons why it exists. You know, the reasons why it exists is because everybody is starving, everybody's broke. You know, lack of resource, lack of access to education and healthcare and housing. And it's like you grow up with bullet holes in the stop signs, eating flaming hot Cheetos in a food desert, and you expect a motherfucker to end up, you know, Oprah. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I think something that I'm working on right now is mass employment. You know what I mean? Because when you look at communities that have similar rates of unemployment across racial demographics, that violence, that homicide, all that starts to even out, you know? And it brings you to the point that people are starving. They don't have options, they don't have outlets, they don't have ways to feed their families. So they're engaged in dangerous lifestyles. So
yeah, I understand, man. I teach people, you know, when I've been working with gangs, street organizations, prison organizations for many years, and he is right, whether you know it or not, he is absolutely right. There are three things that keep you in a survival mode. That is lack of resources, education, and lack of mentorship. And when you get on that Maslow's hierarchy at the bottom, when you're in survival mode, I want everyone to hear me. When you are in survival mode, you suspend the rules. So the rules don't matter. And you normally are trying to survive against someone else. So you gotta turn that survival instinct off and say that there's a way to socialize. And so when I see brothers like you, that's why I was, you know, I know we were pushing and saying we wanted you to speak on it, because I do believe that everyone is gifted with an idea, and employment and entrepreneurship is part of it. And I just think that we need to highlight individuals who are trying to operate in this complicated, you know, urban environment. So are you working on something? You got something? I heard you say your employment. What about your music? Tell me what you're doing.
yeah, no doubt. I'm working on a kind of like a multi-part album right now. So I got a bunch more music coming out within this year. We also doing a bunch of things with my non-for-profit organization. It's called SMSL, and we're doing a large shoe giveaway. We're gonna do it on the west side this time. Last time we gave away 15,000 pairs of shoes in Inglewood after the Chicago police escorted a bait truck to catch people stealing in the hood. So we countered that with the anti-bait truck. So we're gonna keep that going on the west this year, you know, within the next couple months, and it's gonna be big.
But you know, these are the kinds of examples, Chicago, America, that we need. I know that sometimes we get nervous about our future, but I think with brothers like Vic and these other guys, you hear what he just said? He said they gave away 15,000 shoes. I thought everybody was gonna clap, but I was wondering, he said and they're gonna do it again in another 2 months. And you know, as a pastor, I say what was meant for evil, God turned around for good. He said it was a bait truck. That means, that's a way some of y'all may not understand, you know, a person who is hungry or who is desperate, I'm gonna set you up and then catch you. But he said there's a way to turn that around, and I appreciate that. So y'all give it up. This is Brother Vic Mensa. This is Chicago's own. Come on, please.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you.
All right.
All right. All right. See, so I thought we started off with someone that you're familiar with, Chicago, some that you know, and we're gonna, on this stage will be some unusual heroes. Trust me, you will be inspired. That young man just inspired me. And we are not just starting this. We've done this across the country. We were in Minnesota. We were in Minneapolis because we know what happened with the George Floyd incident. And so we said, how do we operate in that space and try to heal without going to the source of some of the most egregious pain in America? So we had the opportunity to meet a powerful individual. His name is KB Baller. And KB is a healer. He is one that I think that you will be inspired by. We have a video. I want you to take a look at his story and how he is bringing solutions from the bottom up. KB Baller, y'all take a look. The only thing that matters when you have a destructive event is the possibility of coming back from it.
Our next guest is a firefighter who spent his entire life savings on his dream to own a sports bar in his city. But before that bar could open, looting and destruction burned the building to the ground.
It feels like a dream right now.
What would you say to those that committed those criminal acts?
You know, I'm not against the protest. I was out there protesting with my kids. I was out there yesterday. The painful part is when you have a small business owner losing everything they have, investing into the business. That's the part that hurt.
How did your story get so popular, man?
It was just a blessing. Because when everything happened, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know nothing but a GoFundMe. I didn't know how to create one.
Are you serious? I
didn't even know how to create. I didn't know how to create one.
Wow.
You know. So I called my cousin. I'm like, hey, can you help me create it? So she created a page for me. That night when I went to bed, you know, I wasn't even paying attention because I didn't know how this stuff worked. In less than 24 hours, I just kept getting a notification on my phone like every second. It was just ding, ding. It was like $5, $20, $100.
Remember that GoFundMe account? The money was piling up fast. And now, 4 days later, there's more than $1 million in there.
He said his wife asked him, we got the money, what are we gonna do? He said, we ain't do nothing else but give it back. What?
Tells CNBC that his goal is to give back to the community and to pay it forward.
I have to, you know, because I've been blessed. You know, so why just take what I have and just worry about me and my family, you know?
You know, that would have been the last thought of someone whose heart had not been open to healing and transformation.
How about I create something that teaches young men and women to start their own business,
right?
Be entrepreneurs,
right.
You know, and go through the process. Like, if you go to the program for a month and you do all the stuff you need to do, we give you a grant. It might not be much, but it's $500 to get your business started.
This is good, man. I'm hopeful. This, and it's funny. I'm looking at scraps and I'm saying I'm hopeful.
I'm hopeful. That's how I feel. You know, it was hurtful, but then the day after that, like, I'm still here.
Right.
You know, we're gonna be okay.
So I think that those type of people, they produce their own energy. They produce their own comeback tools. So that kind of juxtaposition puts a face and a reason behind this whole Heal America. You can see it, right? You know, that's what I'm talking about, this healing process. And it was good that he was able to do that. But since we've left Minneapolis, I'm gonna show you what KB has done. And John, you know this, but he has set up his official 501c3, and it's called ARI in Minnesota. And he's working with young entrepreneurs all over Minnesota to start businesses. And one guy, this is just an anecdotal diagnosis of what he's doing, is one young man, his name is Matt. He has a $1,000 grant. He has registered his LLC, and he is learning from KB how to build his small lawn care business. And then he's working closely with other young people in Minnesota at the university. He speaks to develop a program to teach young people how to be entrepreneurs in their school of entrepreneurship. See, so this is what I mean when you have some tragedy and some devastation. That's just the start. That's not where we're in. That's just the start. We got to go through that portal. So we have some healers. And John, please, let's get these healers on stage. Let's get this conversation going.
Yeah, no, that's what we want to talk about. And I love the way Dr. Smith said, you can't heal what you conceal, right? And that's what we want to have a conversation with folks about that have been there in that darkest of dark place, but have found that healing. And how do you do that, right? So we're fortunate to have with us Leon Ford. So Leon is a police reform activist who was shot 5 times and paralyzed by police officers, and really appreciate Leon being here. And with Leon is Ryan Tillman. Ryan is a police officer based in Los Angeles and also leads an organization called Breaking Barriers United that is focused on bringing communities and police officers together, police officers with those communities that they serve and protect. So we also have with us Alice Johnson. Really thankful to have Alice with us. Alice is an author. She is a grandmother. She is a criminal justice reform advocate. And she served more than 2 decades on a lifetime sentence before that sentence was commuted by President Trump. Really appreciate Alice joining us. Amir Muhadith is also with us. Amir is a former recording artist with Bad Boy Records under the name of Loon, and was recently released from prison after serving more than a decade for a nonviolent drug offense. Appreciate Amir being here. And then we also have Levon Stone with us. Levon is the CEO of Activus, which is an organization here in Chicago that works with communities here in Chicago to reduce violence and bring healing. And so all these folks really appreciate y'all being here, and we're going to have a conversation with them.
Yes. Would y'all please give it up for these healers here? Let me say thank you, thank you, thank you. Some of you have been going with us traveling, and I know it's been tough, and we've been trying to get you to go all around the country. Thank you. And to my brother who talked to me on yesterday, Brother Vaughn, with all the brothers who are in these street organizations and idealists and brothers who have come through, thank you. It meant a lot to me. You know, when you come into a city, you gotta check in. So I had to check in with Brother Vaughn. And so we checked in on yesterday. But you know, John, I don't wanna prolong. I really wanna get into this conversation today.
Yeah, well, what I'd love to do is start actually, Leon, with you, because when we were together in Atlanta, I got a copy of your book, Untold. I have since read your book, and I mean, I knew what you'd been through. But when you understand the pain, the suffering, the hate, everything that you endured, I can't wrap my head around how you go from that to where you are now in terms of the love and reconciliation. Do you mind just sharing with folks a little bit about where you were and how do you work through that? How do you get to hope? How do you get to reconciliation?
Yeah, and so thank you. After I got shot, I was depressed, I was angry, I was frustrated, I was full of hatred. There was parts of my journey where I hated all white people. And I just knew I wanted to live my life, right? And I had faith. I was always a good person. But my circumstances just, it was overwhelming, right? But I have a beautiful family. They love me. They supported me, and they encouraged me to open up my heart to God, right? And it was really me opening up my heart and acknowledging, you know, my pain, acknowledging my frustration. Sometimes we become guilty when we're angry and frustrated because we think that good people or faithful people ain't allowed to be angry or frustrated, or we ain't allowed to hate people. You know, it's the complete opposite. We're human beings, right? And so I allowed myself and gave myself that space to feel, right, those authentic emotions. But I also, I knew what I wanted my life to look like. And so I was able to create the life that I wanted to live. And I knew in order for me to create that life that I wanted to live, I needed healing. And so I had to go on this healing journey. In the beginning of that journey, healing was me writing. I used to write music, right, and poetry. And then it turned into me writing literature, which turned into the book that you read. And so eventually, I decided to see a therapist, and now I practice mindfulness and meditation as well. And so, there's a book called As a Man Thinketh, right? And one of my favorite quotes from that book is, a man's mind is likened to a garden, right? And whether you cultivate that garden or not, it's going to bring forth, right? So if you don't cut your grass, weeds are eventually going to grow. And so I thought about myself and my life, right? And what do I want my garden to look like? And so I began to read a lot. I began to change the type of music I listened to. I began to become more intentional about who I had in my personal space so that I could have these positive influences around me. And that really helped me to become more optimistic and to become more solution-based in my approach towards social justice.
Yeah, well, I mean, which is incredible. Again, and I'd encourage everyone to get a copy of your book and read that, because what you went through to go from that place to where you are now is amazing. And as we think about this challenge of reconciliation, particularly between the police officers and the communities they serve, I'd love to ask Amir and Ryan if you could speak to how do we approach that? How can we get to a place where, as we've already, several people have quoted Dr. King, but he talked about how hate only destroys, right? But love builds and creates. How do we get to a place where it is through love that we can build and create those relationships between police officers and their communities? And Ryan, Amir, either one of you jump in.
I'll let Amir go first. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam. Now, for me, being Muslim, loving what God loves and hating what God hates puts my emotions in place. Because whatever it is that is prescribed as love, meaning legislated, from the Quran, then that's the love that I implement. And whatever angers our Creator, that's what I abstain from. So that becomes the foundation and how to love. Because a lot of times, coming out of inner cities and coming from certain type of environments and having certain type of nurturing and cultivating in our households, we have a very limited perspective of what love is. So we derive an understanding based on those circumstances alone, and it doesn't apply to everything. But we know that our Creator knows us better than we know ourselves. So when it comes to the love that's established in that sense, then that becomes the ultimate love. That becomes the foundation of how you love. And same thing, the reverse of that is you abstain from the things that anger your Lord. So for me personally, that becomes the foundation and how I love. And then I implement that according to what I'm being faced with. So for example, people don't always agree. But because I have an ardent love for rectification and that which is good, then that becomes my target. That becomes where my energy and everything goes, and I can sidestep and overlook some of the things that contradict that. So, this for me becomes just the foundation and basis on how I assert myself when it comes to my heart.
Right.
And that's what it is.
Yeah. Ron.
All right, so, for me, one of the things I've realized, we're living in some trying times in society in general. It's not just police and community relations. You look at COVID-19, you have division whether you should wear a mask or you shouldn't wear a mask. You have division from Democrat or Republican, and what side are you on? Then you have the division, are you Black Lives Matter, are you Blue Lives Matter, are you All Lives Matter? And unfortunately, we're living in a society that we've become so divided, and if you align with something that is different from another person, then we can no longer have dialogue. And I think one of the most valuable things about this tour that we're on is the ability to connect as a family and to have dialogue as family members. And one of the brilliant things about this tour is that every single one of us are different, like very different in many ways. Me and my brother Leon, my sister Alice, Amir, all of us, we're all different, but at the same time, we're all the same in many ways. We realize we have more things in common than we do differences. And so we've learned as a family, like any good family would do, is we may have differences in a family, but we also learn how to connect with each other and accept us for our differences and grow together as a family. That's what makes a family strong. And I think that's what's lacking in this relationships between law enforcement and the community. I have a unique perspective on things because I'm one of those guys that goes out there and has to deal with situations on a regular basis where people are being victimized. I've gone on calls where I've seen somebody stabbed 9 times and their 4-year-old son standing right next to them. I've gone to have to knock on a door and tell somebody that they actually had their dad was murdered. I've gone to traffic collisions where I've seen people that are just, their bodies are just dismembered. But I've also, on the flip side of that, seen police do brutality. I posted a video of this on my social media page yesterday where an officer in Texas went over to some guys that were heckling him and decided to knee him in the face and then handcuff him for cussing in public. It's not right. And so I'm at a unique place where I get to see both sides of it. I get to see where we've made the mistakes, but I also get to see where the solutions can come from. But the only way we're going to be able to find those solutions is by having dialogue, and like my brother down there said, through love. And I'm a firm believer in Jesus Christ, and I think love conquers all. And I truly believe that if we do continue to put that love forward, if we love ourselves, we love our neighbor as we love ourselves, then that's the start of healing right there.
You know, Ryan, that was deep, man. Alice, listening at Ryan, I'm listening at Brother Amir and Leon, I love it because I know that these brothers are coming from a pure place. And when I talk to you, and we talk offline, and we talk, and you carry the weight of that love for those that were left behind. I don't know how you have done that, and you have hit the ground running. I don't know, they may not know your story, but you know, your story has inspired millions of people, but in your heart, you truly believe that your job is to not forget those that you are assigned to. How do you do that? How do you keep that fire in this divisive time?
Well, even though I've got brothers and sisters who are still locked up, I'm still one of them. I'm just free one of them. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, but I'm sure there are many in this audience who have had that jail cell door slammed behind them or that prison door slammed shut. But I don't know if there's very many in this audience who've had that door shut and told that that door will never open for you again. Because I was told that the only way that I would ever be reunited with my family would be as a dead woman. That they'd be picking up my body in a body bag. They'd be looking at me in a funeral home, but I would never rejoin them as a free living woman again. This is what my children were told, my parents, my siblings were told, that they were never going to see me except on visitation day in prison. So I've been in one of the darkest places where there should not be any hope. But I made the decision that I was going to forgive. I was initially, after my arrest, offered 3 to 5 years for my role in a nonviolent drug offense. I was essentially an operator. I'm going to say I connect one phone call, but I never sold drugs. I didn't even know what they were connecting. I connected numbers. And when everything fell apart, the very people who brought me into this thing, who had gotten caught themselves, said I was their boss because I had the phone records. And under conspiracy, whatever one person does, you're held accountable for everything that happens in that. So I went from being offered a 3 to 5 year sentence to exercising my constitutional right to go to trial, and I received the trial penalty, which turned into a life plus 25-year sentence. But when I hit that prison, when I fell on my knees, I was at my lowest point. I truly asked the Lord, if you can use me, use me. And instead of focusing on myself, I started seeing women who had shorter sentences, but they were in more bondage than I was in. They were gnarled up with bitterness because somebody done them wrong. So they were singing "Somebody Done Me Wrong" song. And literally, they had internalized so much bitterness. I saw disease manifested because they couldn't let go of the hate. And the person who was causing them this pain was not even thinking about them. So you walk around, it's like they're saying you drink poison and hope the other person dies. And that's what was happening to them. So I started doing things as the Lord started changing me. And I realized that I had to forgive those who had wronged me. And it wasn't easy. Forgiveness is not an easy thing. It's a choice. It's not a memory relapse, it's a memory release. And when I released that, and I literally had to pray for them and ask the Lord to help me because it wasn't easy. And even today, sometimes just a memory would trigger that pain and it'll try to overtake me, but I don't let it do that to me because I know to let it overtake me gives someone else control of my life. So instead of getting busy with the business of dying in prison. I got busy with the business of living and making a difference wherever I was. And in female prisons, we don't have gangs, we have families because we're nurturers. And many would call me Mama Alice, a grandmama, a sister, a auntie. I became many names to many people, but the thing that held us together was that we had the commonality and we were all separated from our families. Many were in pain. I had to sit with the women as they got the bad news that maybe a child had been killed or a parent had died. And I'd have to be that mother to be there to comfort them. And when you have sat among people that you call your family, there's no way that I could just walk out and forget about them. The day that I left prison, it literally sounded like an earthquake. When they called my name over that intercom to report to R&D, receiving and discharge, it was the loudest sound. Women were in every window, 1,600, because they put them on lockdown because so much media was involved, beating on the bars, screaming my name, pleading, throwing kisses, saying, Miss Alice, please don't forget about us. Don't forget about us. We love you. When I had to pass the camp, which was a low security facility, because my family couldn't come on the premises, I saw the same scene. Over 250 women in every guard. They were out there crying and saying goodbye and saying, I love you, because the Lord had used my life to impact the lives of others. We had a bond that was just as tight as a blood bond. And when I ran across that road, I kept running, but I wasn't running for freedom, I was running for people. I didn't care where I had to go. I didn't care where I had to speak. I didn't care where my journey took me. When I said that I'm not going to forget about you, I didn't. And you'll see me all over the place, speaking, talking. Wherever I'm invited, I use my voice to elevate their voices. I use my face so that you won't forget the faces of the ones that you possibly may never see. And that is what my mission is. But the thing that changed my life and that changed their lives was the ability and the desire to forgive, to move forward, to not keep looking backwards. Don't let this emotionalism, don't let what looks like darkness, because it's pretty dark in our country right now. But we, if there's even a pinpoint, a little sliver of light in a dark place, it's no longer called darkness. It's called that place with that little light in it. So for me, I'm going as an old thing, this little light of mine.
You gonna let it shine. I already knew you was going with it. I had just gonna get in because I let it shine, you know.
Let it shine.
But I'm listening at you, John. I'm listening at Alice, and I'm getting emotional because I understand. I worked in the prisons for many years, and I know how easy it is to die in pain. Mm-hmm. It's easy to just let your breath out and say, man, it ain't happening, bro. And you keep trying to relive. When I was with Brother Vaughn, I saw 15 or 20 men that was with you yesterday. Me, Brother Amir, and Anton, we were there, man. And I know what that was. Street organizations. I know how it feels. Some of these brothers did 25 years, 15, and he was just talking about, bro, we really out here. And some may say that bond that she is talking about, can that bond solve the violence and solve the pain? Are we positioned to do so? What we have to do, this Chicago, this your city, I want to give you the platform. What do we do?
So, to me, I echo what everyone on the panel have said about just love, right? And I always say, loyalty outweighs love, but you got to understand what love is, because when you talk about folks you love, the only thing that in life you get a chance to pick is your friends. Everything else God gave you. Your auntie, your mom, your cousins. I got some relatives right now, if I could, probably give back, I'd probably be like, well, what about that one, right? So it's not always a case where you pick who your family is, right, when you're young. But when you get to a certain age, especially, us men and then us women who chose the street life, you get a chance to expand your life. You expand your family, you expand your brotherhood, your sisterhood, right? So to me, I think overall, the opportunity we've had, and I've had a chance to do this work with different organizations, right? I had that, to me, it's like the training wheels I had on for a lot of years. I worked with a program. And once I got an opportunity to do the work as an independent Black expert with violence prevention, conflict mediation, to me, it was like, how do we empower Black folks, right? How do we empower folks that was once part of the problem that want to be part of the solution, right? So what we did was we built a platform and we set goals early on that it was going to be what can we do to be preventive work. I heard you mention earlier, and I'm just using Labor Day weekend because 28 years ago, Labor Day weekend, I was shot and paralyzed, right? So, people talk about, what changed your life. But I say all the time, getting paralyzed didn't really change my life. Unfortunately, I tell folks when you talk about the things I've accomplished now was I took the senior route. I ain't just get paralyzed and say, okay, I'm 18 years old, I'm shot, I'm paralyzed, I'm gonna go do the right thing, I'm gonna go back to school, I'm gonna go to church. I didn't do that. I went back to the average person, that's an adolescent, that's young folks that think they know, they got everything figured out. Like if you talk to someone 17, 18 years old, he rushing to get grown. I can't wait till I get grown, I'm getting out of here, right? And I tell folks this all the time, like, the only thing that's different between being a child and being grown, or being a man and being a boy, is responsibility. So it wasn't until I turned 30 years old when I made this full transition in my life. And I had a friend of mine who worked for an organization who brought violence prevention to me, right, in a manner that I would understand the concept of it, right? We were doing it already in our neighborhoods where some of these things was bad for business. So, shootings and killings was like, that was like, no nonsense. It was like, so to me it was more of a case where how do we capture that? How do we utilize all those relationships, right? Because they say if you can stop it, you can start it. So to me, when folks talk about the RICO Act and, for the most part, I feel like a lot of these communities got to this point because the folks that really could stop it really laid dormant because we've seen what's happened to folks before us about, how the federal RICO Act work, right? If you have some influence in the neighborhood or you got some relationships in that neighborhood, it could be for good or it could be for bad. So to me, I think having those guys, having that experience, me unfortunately getting shot, going to prison, taking the senior route, going back to school, getting my bachelor's degree, getting my master's degree, I'm an example of change. So when we talking to folks, we meeting with folks, we meet them on some of these folks on the worst day of their lives. So like I told you, I just gave you the backdrop to that.
Brother Vaughn, I'm gonna ask one more question on that. How many brothers, you named a lot of them brothers that got their bachelors, how many was it?
Right, so, and that works for our program or just overall?
Yes,
so
sir,
again,
yeah, work for your program.
So right now we probably, like I say, I say in the beginning we had like 22 folks that worked for Activists in the beginning. Out of the 22 people that worked for the Activists, 12 of us had been in pursuit of getting further in our education. So I'll say out of the 12, I want to say probably 10 of them have at least got their bachelor's degree, and some have went on to get master's degree and PhDs. But I think overall this was just a transition that we made, but for the majority of it, probably 90% of the folks are convicted felons. They are folks that's from the community. They are folks that had relationships with street organizations that have changed their lives. So this just is a platform to me where activists allow Black men and women to have a platform, to have a voice, and try to solve the problem directly with not getting the funds or anything indirectly, but through someone else. So
I got it. Would y'all give it up for our brother? Brother Amir, John is looking at me like, Bishop, you just taking over.
No, you go.
No, I felt your spirit. I feel like you
learning.
I felt your spirit, brother. I love you, though. We'll talk about that. But Brother Amir, I love John, he's my friend. Brother Amir, man, you have this idea, and I just want people to, just ride with us just for a minute, then we'll stop. But I want this idea about changing the perception, because that's what I think that Brother Vaughn is talking about. It's a perception change, because now you got your masters, your bachelors. It's a different idea. You've been talking about this police idea should be a different way. You want to do these community conversations. Can you talk about that?
I mean, basically, like when I was growing up, there was a different type of relationship between law enforcement and the communities, because the majority of the officers that policed the neighborhoods that I lived in were from those neighborhoods. So there was a certain moral aspect of the job that was implemented, opposed to someone coming from outside the neighborhood trying to police a neighborhood that's foreign. So you have that fear factor, which is always either used as an excuse or means to justify certain actions.
Right.
I'm fearful of my life. This is why an unarmed black man gets killed, because you're scared. You want to make sure you get back to your suburban life or your suburban neighborhood. My thing is, why is these individuals even policing the neighborhoods in the first place? And why is it the opportunities for these positions being filled by those who are from the community? Because, like I said, when you're from the community, your assessment of things is going to be completely different from someone whose assessment is only to do their 8 and skate. Like we say this, do your 8 hours and get back home. So you do your 8 and skate. That's really your whole assessment. There's nothing that is extended from that process other than I just get a call, I go handle it accordingly to my perspective or what I see or how I view the situation to be, resolved, and I get back to where I'm at. So for example, like we had, organizations like the PAL, which was the Police Athletic League. We had the Boys Club, we had the YMCA, and all of these things were facilitated by not only law enforcement officers who took time out of their schedule to volunteer, to inject some type of, hope and connection with the youth. So for example, like, if you didn't show up for like 3 days, this same officer, he know your mother, he know your aunt, he know everybody. He come to your house to see why you haven't been present. So this is an extension of the love that resides within the community and dealing with community affairs from a place that's known and not foreign. So what I wanted to do was actually establish town halls in different states where you get not the media trained officers who are put there to represent or, try to, defend the integrity and reputation of the police department. You want officers who are doing the grunt work, the guys that's out there every day, the guys that don't have any media training. So that means everything that you extract from them will be a testament of how they view their job and how they view the communities that they police. Mm-hmm. Then you have 2 separate entities to our communities, which we have to be clear on and transparent, that you have people who are actually active in the community, who work, pay taxes, not involved with any foolishness. Their voice has its own place and it shouldn't be confused with the voices of other people who have other perspectives, so to say.
I got you.
So you want to establish that relationship, because these are the people who are actually paying your salary. These are the people who actually go to work every day, and every tax dollar that they spend is so that you can have a job.
Right.
So they demand, to a certain extent, that they're defended or protected, or your job, which means to serve and protect, that I feel safe in my community, because I'm paying for it.
So one of your solutions, and I want everyone to get it, is we will be having town halls, you hosting these town halls across the country with police officers that are from those neighborhoods, and if not, police officers that are assigned, so that they can really have real conversations with people who are being affected, so it won't have this mysterious fear factor, and it keeps this tragic cycle of violence and misinterpretation going. And would y'all please give Brother Amir a hand for that? Because see, he's not just talking, his platform is great. But this is why I love talking to Alice, I love talking to Amir, I love talking to Ryan and Leon, and now Brother Vaughn. It's because these are not individuals who don't have platform, who don't have followers, who don't have things that they could do, but they keep, and I've been watching them. Brother Leon was on CNN, and he said, man, I'm not here to keep an argument going after the young man was shot in Kenosha. And they said, you were shot too, how you feel? And he said, man, why do we keep screaming and yelling and arguing and not getting into solutions? I got to get to solutions, and I want to show. Yeah, go ahead, Ryan. Go ahead.
I want to touch on that. I want to go back to my brother Amir, because he touched on something that's so critical. That neighborhood looking like the communities that they serve, or the police officers looking like the community that they serve, and that's so critical. It's important. I always make this joke. So my wife, she's Filipino and Hispanic, and when we first got married. In the black culture, we just talk loud in the household. I mean, we just talk loud. Like we not arguing, we just talking loud. Some of y'all can relate. So when we got married, I'd be talking loud, but my wife took it, she thought I was getting confrontational and yelling. She's like, why are you yelling at me? I'm like, no, we just talk loud. And so I call that dialect. And the reason it may be funny, but the reason I say that is because if I'm in the streets when I'm working as a police officer and I'm dealing with, let's just say, some black people in the community, they start talking loud. I'm not getting in fear because I'm talking in dialect. This is normal for me. But you take a person that didn't grow up like that, you take a person that's not from the neighborhood, they start raising that voice. It makes an officer fear because now he thinks like, hey, there's some conflict coming my way. No fault to him, no fault to the guy that's raising his voice, but you can see there's a disconnection there. And so that's why I really love what Amir's talking about, is getting officers that look like the community that they serve. But the one problem that we have with that is this perception thing. My brother Leon posted something yesterday on Instagram, and he asked the question. He said, how many of you guys would like to go out there and be a police officer? So I looked at some of the answers and some of the responses. F12, I hate cops, this and that. And I get it. And from an emotional place and everything you've been seeing, I could see why you might feel that way. But on the flip side of that, what I did is I hated cops growing up. I didn't like cops. My family was harassed by cops. I was. But I was like, I'm going to be a part of the change and be the solution as opposed to just saying, forget them. What better way can you become a part of the change than infiltrating the system? And so we talk about, regenerating our neighborhoods and stuff like that. What I did in law enforcement is I became one, and now I have a seat at the table. And not only do I have a seat at the table, now I have an influential seat at the table. Now I can go out there and change that perception, because when I change the perception of our black kids in these communities, now they see an officer that they can see themselves in, and now they want to go be the police officers in their communities. So this takes a big work, and then going a little bit deeper, we talk about putting money back in the community. What I did today in Chicago before I came here is I'm looking at investing in property out here, getting homes, regenerating it, flipping it, and that way people can go live right. That's dumping money back into the neighborhoods. And so me and Leon were talking before we got on the stage today. We got to stop looking for the handout. We got to get busy. We got to put our knees on the ground. We got to start working hard, and we got to start being that change we want to see. And that's the only way. I can go catch some fish for you, but if I teach you how to fish, you'll never go hungry. And so I commend you, Amir, and everybody up here, my brother Leon, because that's where real work starts. Is we got to stop listening to what everybody else says, focus on us, and figure out how I can be a part of that solution as opposed to the problem.
Thank you, sir. Come on, give it up. Are y'all all right? Is everybody all right? Y'all all right, Brother Vaughn? You want to comment on this?
I think overall, I think that when folks talk about policing, like I told you before, to me, we're using a public health approach, so it takes multidisciplinary people to be part of it. So law enforcement do have a role, right? And that's clear. To me, I just think that just looking at Chicago right now, we probably have, like I said to you yesterday, I hadn't looked at it in a long time, but we had like 12,500 police officers, but only 2,200 of them was African American, right? Yeah. So they went on this crusade on, how do we engage, black young folks to apply to be police officers, right? So, like I told you yesterday, I made that transition in my mind probably in 2009. So even going back to my children, I was saying, hey, do you think you want to be the police, right? And that was like foreign for me asking my children or my friends or advocating for telling folks, man, you should be police, you should be the police, you should be the police, because they had a platform where you can make, I think they were saying you could start out at like $50,000, but in 3 years you could jump to like 78,000. To me, that was huge, right? Because there's no form of employment here in Chicago that you could go from 60,000 to 80,000 in 3 years. That projection to me. So I think overall that when we talk about the role that law enforcement play, I think street outreach work right now have a professional understanding or professional relationship with law enforcement where they play a role. So trust me, it takes a village to raise a child. So when we talked yesterday, I mean, just echoing some of this work and what we're talking about, like we see law enforcement on a daily basis because, like I told you yesterday, we work in 5 level 1 trauma centers. Anytime someone's shot, stabbed, or jumped on, you got to know that law enforcement play a role as well. Law enforcement is going to be there. So when we're interacting with those individuals and their family members, we're explaining that there's a role not just for our role, but street outreach, but law enforcement will play a role as well. So again, you bridging that gap where you the mediator between community, hospital, stakeholders. So again, we explain to folks, once you cross that line, if you break the law, then law enforcement get involved. So you got to be able to identify those. You got to be able to identify those 2 different roles. So
and let me tell you this. I want to say this to you, and I talked to Superintendent, Chief Brown today. David Brown was a good brother, and I told him we had a great time, great interaction. He's a great brother. I said, we have some guys that you need to connect with. And I asked him, I said, can I say on stage tonight that you in? He said, tell him I'm totally in, man, and we are going to connect. So Chicago, I want you to know that Superintendent Chief Brown is a great, he's just a great person to know. But he said that he's going to make sure that he does some of these things and hear these suggestions. So I want you to know that. And John, I know I got to close, but I love this because this is what I really do, man. So I apologize if I'm going too much. But see, when I see these people who are healers, man, I know that their words are weighty, not because they're saying them, it's because they live it. This is what they do for real. This is not staged. These are the ones that you got to look at and examine what it looks like and feels like to go through the trauma and the drama of that pain and then come out on the other side. But go ahead, John, I'm a hush.
No, this question that we've been talking about leading up to this event, what do we have to do to seize this moment, to heal America? And I think just to wrap this up, I wanted to throw it back real quick to Leon and Alice, if y'all don't mind. If you just in a sentence or 2 could share with us, what's your answer to that question? What do we have to do to seize this moment to heal America? Leon.
I would say we need self-love, self-care, and self-correction, right? We're doing the work. We're talking about it. We're living it out every single day. And we need alliances. We've had allies for a long time. There's foundations in every city, giving hundreds of millions of dollars away to nonprofit organizations. There are mayors and chiefs of police who say that they are in, right? And so we need to hold them accountable as well as ourselves to really bring forth some solutions, right? And when we talk about, policing, when we talk about what Brother Amir, his idea, right, of getting, young people involved in policing, right? That's one thing. I'm also thinking about how do we sustain it, right? It's completely legal for an officer to live in the suburbs to come work in the city, right? But what can the city do? If the city if they really want change, right? Something that the city can do, there's gentrification happening every city across America, right? And so what the city can do, the city can work with with the banks, with nonprofit organizations to not only train young police officers, but to create incentives for them to become first-time homeowners in their own communities, right? And that is very easy. So then you have these young people from the neighborhood who's mentored by activists who are also mentored by the OGs and police officers. They become police officers, and now They become homeowners, right? So we need everybody involved. We need people who are, who have been released from prison. We need OGs in the neighborhoods. We need, educators. We need policymakers and nonprofit leaders to really sit down together and come up with solutions. Let's put our egos to the side. Let's stop with, the arguments, and let's do what's righteous. And that's what is needed right now.
Yeah, to do it together, right? I love that. That's what we've been talking about. We have to come together to do it. And like Ryan said, we got to be the change we want to see, the change we want to see. Alice, can you take us out here with?
Yeah, I'm just going to take us out very quickly. In this moment that we're in, we've got to get unstuck. That's the only thing that I can describe it as, is getting unstuck. What has happened has already happened. We can't change that. But we can look forward and say, okay, what's next? So we are in this Heal America moment. We're in the moment of what's next. Where do we go from here? If we stay in the same place and think that we're going to get different results, we're still stuck.
Right.
So we've got to get unstuck from this place of pain, from this place of everything that has happened. It's time for us to move forward. And you know how I feel about taking action for good. It's time for us to take action now, but let that action be for good.
Amen. Amen. All right. Thank you all for being here with us.
Thank you. Come on, y'all, give it up for this panel. Come on, give it up, give it up, give it up.
Can you get out of here?
I appreciate it. That was a great conversation. And again, I kind of get caught up. They keep telling me, Bishop, I know. But I just love these healers, man. Brother Amir.
That was awesome,
My brother. Love you, man. Come on, y'all, one more time. Give it up for them. These healers. Again, this is what it looks like to be a healer. And I want to invite the audience that's online. I want you to do something. Go to healamericatour.com to sign up, and you can become a healer. The people you just heard from, they are true transformed individuals, people who move towards the healing even when the pain is real. And if you want to sign up to be a healer, you can find more about the information on this website. All you got to do is go to healamericatour.com, healamericatour.com. Now, and I want you who are online, please stay with us. We have another panel coming, but we're going to really give you some solutions and give you our platform. In the audience, are y'all all right? Well, that sure sounded weak. Let me try it again. In the audience, are y'all all right? And so I don't want you to lose focus. This was therapeutic for somebody. I needed it. Some more folks who are online needed it. Go to healamericatour.com. We're going to continue after this great performance by Liv. Liv is a icon, a beautiful icon. She's in Chicago. She's one of the greatest singers in the world. Truly. So she's going to bring us in with some great music, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk to a few others on this platform, but I want you to stay with us. HealAmericaTour.com. Liv is up next. Y'all give it up for her.
beliefs are under siege. The have-nots are searching for promises that are broken. As our sweet liberty fades, lift every voice still remains. I choose to be a freedom rider. Nothing wrong with being a freedom fighter. The revolution will never stop. So raise your fists more than ever. So raise your fists now or never. To sell your soul at what cost, and watch your life slip away, caught deep in society's plague. It's not too late to stake your claim. What are we here for? What have we been fighting for? My voice I'll use to paint a picture of peace again. I choose to be a freedom rider. Nothing wrong with being a freedom fighter. The revolution will never stop. So raise your fists more than ever. So raise your fists now or never. To be a freedom rider. Nothing wrong with being a freedom fighter. I choose to be a freedom rider. I choose to be a freedom rider. Freedom rider. Everybody deserves freedom. Freedom rider. Freedom rider. I deserve it all. Reparations, baby. Oh, I need it. look me in my eyes. more things change, the more you stay the same. I've been working so hard, listen, to move on. Sing it. Everything I worked for, now it's gone. I can feel things. I can feel it. Turn around and let you on my way out now. It's time you're staying down. The more things change, the more you stay the same. So the more things change, the more you stay the same. I said, the more things change, stay
Now, I just assume that everybody's just gonna start clapping and cheering. Y'all give it up for this band. Wasn't it nice? Live! Oh my God. Okay, John, it's on you. I gotta stop, because I'm...
No, it's on you.
It's on me?
Yeah.
Listen, man, I want to just say this, that Liv is one of the best, and she has this kind of power. And I think the reason I love her singing for this is because it speaks to what we're trying to do. We're trying to create a powerful moment, and not just through conversation, but through ideas. And, you know, we have this saying in America that all people are created equal. But this has been an unequal society for so long that too many of us are feeling the brunt of that pain, and it's becoming unbearable. And so this Heal America tour is really just kind of a trailer. One of my guys, Butter, said this is like a trailer to the movie. But this is a movement that we are pursuing, and it's because of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. What we are saying to you is that this is a platform. This is not just what we think. This is what we need. There are too many of us living in total violation. We don't have this idea that we are really connected. And a disconnected citizenship can cause the kind of pain that we see in America. And so something has to change. We know that America has never fully lived up to these ideas. And so people are angry, people are hurting, our country is divided. And throughout history, when individuals have united to fulfill these ideas of life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, unalienable rights, there are some things that happen that's magical. But these barriers today are keeping us from doing that. And so today, without equivocation or compromise, we have to declare that inequality is not acceptable, especially amongst those who are hurting the most. And that's black citizenship. And so we gotta stand. And we gotta stand for something that's bigger than just our own safety and security. We have to say, America, we have to change our whole ideas.
Yeah, no, that's right. And like you said, I mean, we've got to stand, make that declaration, and then we walk together, right? And we walk towards solutions, and that's what we've been talking about, and working in these partnerships, bringing people together around, are these solutions. Because if we don't take the next step, then we don't make that impact. Nothing changes. And it is only a declaration, right? But it is not realized. True. And so I know we've got these 5 areas that we want to talk about, that we're focusing in on as a movement. You know, this is the trailer to the movement. The movement starts with these 5 focus areas that we really want to drill in and drive and change. Can you share with folks a little bit what those 5 areas are?
Yeah, so what we're saying is to make the movement happen, especially in Black citizenship, we have to tackle 5 areas that we believe are critical. One is residential assignment and education. No free country, no country is doing education like we do it, and it's almost like we are redlining these young people to say you have to be quarantined for your education. It's wrong. Bottom-up solutions when it comes to poverty and violence. How do we change this generational poverty, and how do we attack the violence that's in our communities? The war on drugs. We are declaring that the war on drugs we need a war on the war on drugs, because this has disproportionately affected so many Black Americans. We are like we're under siege in our own community because of this war on drugs. The policing, overcriminalization. We all know that it has become hostile, militarized, and it is not the kind of policing that Amir was talking about. And so we have to change some of those policies that are really affecting the grassroots. And then we can talk about all of this, but you know the bottom line is there needs to be true economic opportunity in urban communities where our poverty rate should not be sustained generation after generation. If we are in America, we should have the same right to come out of poverty, to come out of that place of desperation that creates this cycle. And so these are the 5 areas that we are saying has to be addressed in order for this movement to be sustained.
That's right. And tonight, so we're not going to do all 5. We don't have to worry. We're not here all night long.
Right.
But we're going to focus in on 2 of these areas. We want to have a conversation around real solutions in these 2 areas. So we're going to talk about residential assignments and K-12 education is one. And the other are these bottom-up solutions to address violence in our communities. Yes. So we're fortunate to have with us a couple folks that are experts in those areas that I want to invite to come out and join us for a conversation. The first one is Darrell Bradford. And Darrell is the Executive Vice President of 50 CAN, which is an organization focused on ensuring that every kid has access to a quality education. And he's a national leader in education reform. Appreciate Darrell being here. What's up, Darrell? All right, we've also got with us Antong Lucky. Antong is former co-founder and former leader of the Bloods in Dallas, Texas. He turned his life around in prison and is now partnering with urban specialists and Bishop Omar in attacking violence in communities, eliminating violence in communities. And then we also have with us Jeff Dace. Jeff is the assistant superintendent for Decatur Public Schools, but has spent most of his career right here in Chicago as a leader in the public school system here in Chicago, and appreciate Jeff joining us. And so we want to have a conversation about these 2 issues and really get into some solutions. And I'd like to start, Jeff, if you wouldn't mind, with you by addressing what Bishop referred to earlier, talking about how we began to attack segregation in schools 50 years ago, right, and made a formal effort or an explicit effort to integrate schools, and yet still today, it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of progress in those areas. I know you've seen firsthand for decades the impact of segregation in schools. Can you talk a little bit about that and the impact and difference that makes, not only in kids' lives, but as those kids grow up and in our communities?
I mean, I feel as kids grow up, if they don't have that interaction with the different ethnic groups or races, that they just go off the belief of what they've been told or the misconceptions that they have. For example, and it's not just, it doesn't start at the schoolhouse. So if kids, white and black, if a white kid has no interaction with a black kid, then they grow up with the misconceptions. So when they grow up and get older, we think about the police I'm not gonna let a black male, because we're perceived as aggressive, gets towards me. So what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna just shoot him, because I don't have any friends that's white or, you know, of color. So I don't have that relationship with them to take that thought and say, wait a minute, let me give them a chance, or let me hear them out. And then we have a lot of that manifests all the way through adolescence and through their school years. So it's sort of like, I know we're going to get into solutions. We have to make a conscious effort, an intentional effort to integrate the races at an early age, so we have that interaction. And so we know, hey, that's a good guy right there, whether they're white, black, Hispanic, or whatever. And as we grow up, we have that interaction, and we can collaborate and be one another instead of saying, oh no, I'm distant from them. So it matriculates all the way through the years, but at the end of the day, it hurts us when we're adults and we don't have that interaction with one another.
Yeah, so as we talk about how then to do that, right, because it is so critical, and to deliberately, as you said, deliberately integrate schools. Darrell, if you wouldn't mind speaking to a little bit of, you know, as I was saying before, I mean, there were explicit movements to segregate, right? We've moved beyond that, but there is now an implicit sort of these barriers in place that implicitly segregate schools, as we're talking about a little bit. And the Bishop mentioned residential assignment. Can you talk a little bit about that relationship between what we see as segregation in schools and residential assignment? And maybe say what residential assignment is too, in case
so I don't want to be the boring guy after all the amazing entertainment, but I guess I'm going to be the boring guy. So thank you, Bishop.
But you got pink pants on. That's not too boring.
I do. They got more like coral when I came out of here. I do want to thank Bishop and Dr. John for having me here, as well as my co-panelists and urban specialists and staying together. It's delightful to be with all of you this evening. So just like two things to set it up first. So sometimes you hear like kitchen table conversation with people in your family that doesn't make any sense. And then way later in your life, it makes a ton of sense. And so when I was growing up in Southwest Baltimore, just to kind of like loop this together, which is a neighborhood very few people know because I lived there, but because many years after I lived there, a young boy named Freddie Gray died there. And my hometown burned as a result. It's not good to see your hometown burn on TV, just throwing that out there. But I can remember my mother and my grandmother talking about whose address we were going to use so that I could go to a middle school I wasn't zoned for. That middle school was called Mount Royal, which was in the Bolton Hill section of Baltimore, not the Sandtown Winchester section of Baltimore, where I grew up. Now, the reason why they had to have that conversation, to what John said, is that the way we assign kids to public schools in America is based on where you live, right? And everybody in here knows you buy your house with your school. Those two things go together. And that is called residential assignment. And it is the cornerstone of how we send people to public school in America. But it is so there are lots of policies in America that you may argue are racist. However, this is a policy that you can't argue is racist because it's actually a racist policy. Let me explain. So, as one of the policies passed during the New Deal was called the Homeowners Loan Corporation. And that was Roosevelt's effort to help people buy houses and get out of the Depression faster. And one of the things that the government did was color code America on a series of maps, a whole bunch of colors, right? And every color, corresponded to a kind of area. So if you were in the yellow area, that was a good area. If you were in the blue or green area, that was like kind of okay. If you were in the red area, that not so good. And actually, the maps call the red areas hazardous. The red areas were filled with black people. Deliberately filled with black people. The lines were drawn deliberately to circumscribe neighborhoods that black people lived in. And if you lived in one of those red-lined areas, hence where the name comes from, you couldn't get a loan that everybody who lived in all the other places could get, which means you couldn't raise property wealth to fund your schools. Right? See how this whole thing kind of rolls together? It's very sinister when you think about it like this. And that legacy still lives with us today. Like redlining is outlawed, But if you laid a school district assignment map on top of a red line map, they would be the same map, right? Wow. So I'm just like, I've taken too much time. I'm sorry, and I know Jeff is going to speak to this because it has huge implications for what you know. If integrating schools is what you care about, guess what? Having a housing map that is laid on deliberate policy that was meant to segregate people is not the best way to do it. If you care about increasing the wealth of people of color, guess what? Purposely depressing their housing wealth for 70 years, right, is not the way to do it, right? And if you care about, you know, building an innovative system of education where like every kid, you know, reaches their highest best potential regardless of where they live, this is not the way to do it. So I would love to chat about it some more, especially in the context of how we deal with violence in our communities and how we deal with resources for schools and how we help every kid become the best version of themselves.
Wow. Yeah, so I mean, let's continue to talk about that for a moment, and then talk about violence in communities. What solutions do you both see to approach these problems to ensure that we do have schools that provide opportunity, or even just educate? Maybe part of the challenge, I know, Darrell, we've talked about, is the fact that I just said school when I'm thinking education, right? Because we should think outside of the box and open up any number of different opportunities. There are different ways to experience education so that it is really focused on what is the best for the kids, right? And not based necessarily on the school itself. But what solutions would y'all recommend, or do you see that are promising to address the problem?
Well, I would say it goes back to having that intentional effort, thinking about the municipalities. If you're offering incentives to have a diverse municipality. So if you have a diverse city or town, then it's going to matriculate into the schools where you'll have more diversity and more integration. But unfortunately, here in our country, when you offer an incentive, a lot of people say, well, I still get what I get, so I'm not getting negatively impacted from that. So you may have to also say you're gonna have sanctions if you do not meet this certain quota for diversity in your city, in your town, which ultimately you want in your schools. And you could offer the same thing in your school, but I think that would also hit the red line if you start with the municipalities and increase that diversity.
Yeah. Darrell?
Yeah, I mean, and then I'll shut up to borrow from the bishop earlier. The part of the challenge with the school conversation overall, right? And it lives in this idea, the fact that you lay a line down and you basically say something on one side of it is good, which means something on the other side of it is immediately something you don't want, right? When you do that, you create an environment of scarcity, where everybody is fighting over what people believe is a limited capacity of our people and our society and our institutions to make more good things, right? And you know, whatever you want to say about capitalism, like capitalism continues to make lots of good things, right? like all the time there's new good things. But when we talk about institutions, like it's like I have my good thing and you have to go get your own, right? And schools fall absolutely deliberately into that paradigm, and for good reasons, right? Like for 60, 70 years, we've been telling people, like your house and your school, they go together, and lots of people have played by those rules, and if those people feel like you are gonna take their thing from them, they're gonna fight you, right? And so part of and I know this sounds sort of pie in the sky, but like part of the challenge is that we have to have a paradigm shift and how we think about excellence, so that excellence isn't scarce, it is abundant, right? It's not that only Winnetka can make good schools, right? Like, look, at 709 Baker Street where I grew up, and the house next to me, 707 Baker Street, let me tell you what was there way back in the day, a pod, right? Before anybody knew what they were. And it was the entrepreneurial woman of color who happened to be my boy's mom, who lived in the house next to me. And she had 8 kids, and she was working it out, right? Like, we were figuring it out. Like, this was our community. This was our bottom-up solution, right? And it's not like the will or the spirit weren't there, the resources weren't, right? And so I'm really interested in a conversation, particularly now, like, COVID is horrible. Like, I don't want to undersell how horrible it is and how horrible it has been in communities of color. But you have seen a lot of bottom-up engagement, particularly on education, from lots of people and organizations that aren't normally at the table to talk about education in a way that I think evinces this feeling of abundance, right? And we should not let that go away. Like, if we want more people engaged, if you want to help like an assistant superintendent who's trying to build a great community of solutions, if you want to engage people, because I just want to say, like, we have a lot of educators on this stage and some of them don't teach in schools, right? So if you want to give those folks an opportunity to be, like, to lead in their communities on education, like, which is a much bigger thing than what you learn in school, like, I think now is a good time to take that mindset on and run with it.
Yeah, so to grab a hold of what you just shared, Darrell, talking about a paradigm shift, right? That's what I hear. I mean, both of you are talking about is the way that we have to shift our mentality and the way that we think about education, the way that we think about how to provide those incentives and those opportunities, that we have to ensure that kids, that their zip code's not their destiny, right? That the lines aren't determining where they have to go to school. We have to ensure that.
Or how they're policed.
Or how they're policed. Yeah, fair. Yeah, true. That the funding is available for those families to be able to engage in those different opportunities, and that there's a variety of opportunities so that kids can find the place and the education opportunity that's best suited to them. And I know that's what Stand Together is partnering with 50 Can and others to make that possible and move that forward. So to take that model of the paradigm shift from scarcity to abundance in education, Anton, in the conversations we've had, I've heard you saying a similar thing, which is if we're going to address violence in communities, we also have to have this paradigm shift from a survivalist mentality to another mentality. Yeah. Can you connect, maybe help us understand when you say that the challenges that our communities are captivated by survivalist mentality, what does that mean?
Well, that means, Dr. John, that a lot of young people in our communities, and I take me for example. Growing up, I was an A honor roll student, talented and gifted student, loved bringing good grades home to my grandmother. But when I got out of school, I had to fight some kids. And so my survival each day depended on how good I could fight or how fast I can run. And that shouldn't be like that. I mean, kids shouldn't have to choose between being able to survive versus wanting to bring home good grades for their grandparents. And so that takes a different kind of approach when we're looking at violence in the community, bringing in individuals who understand that community to be mentors. And that when I first got out of prison, when I met Bishop Omar, the first thing he said to me was, and I had somewhat changed a little bit. I wouldn't always change, but I wanted to help my community. I wanted to go back because I understood as a young person, as a kid, that I wanted to be great. But I made some choices based on survival that took me down the wrong path. And when I met Bishop, when I got out of prison, first thing he said to me was, we have to go to the other neighborhood and get those guys in this process of working with young people. And I remember saying to Bishop, that wasn't in my plan. I didn't think that far. I wanted to change, but I didn't think about going to that other community. But I did, and we went to another community. We met a brother who was my arch enemy, Grover, and Grover gave us passage to that community which allowed us to help some young people, because I'm gonna be quiet, my neighborhood and this other neighborhood, it was so entrenched that kids were growing up feeling like they had to be enemies with each other. They had to be enemies with people who looked like them, who stayed down the street, and whose family was struggling just like theirs. And we wanted to change that. And so we went to that neighborhood and recruited the guy from the other neighborhood, and we began to work with young people to eradicate that idea that you have to survive, or you have to be into it with the individual that stay down the street. So it was a paradigm shift. Yeah. And we can talk more about that.
Well, maybe you could speak a little bit to that strategy of, you're talking about, I know you have the 3I strategy that urban specialists utilizes.
Yeah, you know, when I'm listening to Anton and I'm listening at these brothers on the stage, the bottom line is some people believe that it will never get better.
Right.
And you cannot heal what you hate.
Right.
And there's too many folks who have given up on the community, they've given up on the idea of transformation, and so they say that's just what's gonna happen, that's just how it is. Mm-hmm. And so what we say is you got to have a 3I approach. And 3I for us is intrusive program model. I tell people you cannot do drive-by solutions to serious problems.
Right.
You got to get up close and personal with the ones you want to change.
Right.
And then you have to have an invasion. You have to invade the culture. You know, I was talking to one teacher one time, I'm not gonna say her name because she was just probably tired that day, but she told me, I hate this music. These boys get on my nerves with the way they talk. I hate how they dress. And then she said, but the Lord sent me to them. I said, well, the Lord should have sent you somewhere else. 'Cause if you hate the culture, hate the community, hate the dress, but I love y'all, how? You know, you got to invade the culture. So that means you cannot be afraid of the culture. So you got to have an invade. You got to go into the culture and really be serious about it. And then we say there are institutions that really are about change, that are sacrosanct to a community, an urban community, the churches, schools, stores. You have to engage those individuals in how we believe they should interface with their institutions with these change agents. But all of it works because you have people like Anton that you say are the leaders.
And that's, I mean, sorry, Anton, were you gonna say something?
No, and I was, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna, well, now I don't remember, you go ahead. I was grooving, but I lost it.
But you know what, when I was listening earlier, right, it took me back to a conversation that I witnessed with my grandparents when I was a kid, and it's crazy that when I just heard what you said, and it was a conversation about a loan that my grandfather was trying to get for the bank. He worked for the city. And I remember the response. I don't remember verbatim, but I remember it being almost as if I don't know who the they was, don't give loans to us. And now I'm just sitting here thinking, as a kid growing up, it took me a while before I understood that me as a black person is able to get a loan, just from that conversation from my grandparents. And then another thing that I noticed, because we're talking about education, and we can go back to that, John, is that when I was in prison, I realized that over 89% of the people that was in prison were high school dropouts. Yeah. And so these kind of statistics started making me educate myself when I was in prison. See, I had to educate myself in prison. I read every book under the sun, educating myself because I understood how much I didn't know. And so, but I never knew that a policy called redlining that prevented my grandmother, maybe from preventing my mother and father from getting a loan, and these policies kept me in a neighborhood, and all this stuff worked together. So just listening to this now as an adult makes me want to work harder to make sure that these things don't happen in our communities.
Well, and what strikes me as we're talking about this is that the solutions, education and violence, are both rooted in what we've talked about as bottom up. And that is to say, it's about enabling, empowering, partnering with the people in the community. So in education, it's not, I mean, Darrell, you were mentioning before, I think over 70% of students today are assigned to a school, right? Top down, told this is the school you have to go to. And then as y'all were just saying, and as we've talked about before, when it comes to the communities and violence, is that a lot of the people that are trying to solve those challenges are not equipping, engaging with the leaders in those communities, not empowering. So we're not empowering the kids and the families to pursue the education experiences that best suit them, and we're not partnering with the leaders like what y'all are doing with OGU in the community.
You know, so Darrell, let me piggyback on what Dr. John just said. Now, the idea, and Brother Jeff, you can chime in too, the idea kind of feels like, when we're talking about this residential assignment, there is like, you know, what if I'm able to get out of that neighborhood, or what if I'm stuck in this neighborhood? You know, it's almost like those who can get out, you get the better, and those who stay, you get the worse. Right. How do you address the obvious, you know, disconnect right there? Because that's the hesitation John, for real, in urban schools, saying, well, hold up now, don't let out, if you got a car, you can leave, but if you don't, you're stuck. How do we deal with that?
Yeah, I'll go first, so you go?
No, I just want to say,
first, yeah. Go ahead.
so you're saying 70% are assigned to a school, mostly their neighborhood school. I'm a proponent. What's wrong with that?
Okay.
What's wrong with that being in your neighborhood school? The issue is we hear about an achievement gap. I say we have an opportunity gap, but most important, we have a belief gap. They don't believe in the kids. So the mentality, you're talking about what's the definition of excellence. Definition of excellence in some neighborhood is different from definition of excellence in other neighborhoods. Why shouldn't you be able to go to your neighborhood school and that prosper? It shouldn't just be, because you're going to a black school, we almost know that you're not gonna perform in that school. I was a principal at a 99% black school. We only had 2 white teachers and was at the highest level. But I have a belief in my kids. So a lot of times it's the mentality, and that goes to the parents and everything around there. If you don't believe in them, then I don't care what policies you change, whatever you put them, however type of funding, that's the issue there. And a lot of times, if they don't have the interaction with those different races, they only believe in their race. So then you have another one in front of you, and you're not giving it all that you would give to the same person if you were looking in the mirror.
See, so that it is right there.
This is the part where I say we're in violent agreement. So no fight here. Here's what I think is really important to take away from all of this, if it's a takeaway, right? And I was thinking about this summer. I was thinking about after the death of George Floyd, the killing of George Floyd. So when I was a senior in high school, I went to a party with a bunch, and I went to a very ritzy high school on a scholarship, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me, and it changed my life, and I'm forever humbled by it. But I lived in the hood, and my classmates did not. So it took a long time before they would come pick me up, and we would go places together. So we went to a party at a friend of a friend's house, and the party was in the back of the house, and the house was still being built, right? So we were just, there were some kegs out there, we were just all hanging out, right? And it's a whole bunch of people a whole bunch of white people, just to make that clear, from all the prep schools in the network of prep schools that I went to. And the cop showed up, and I was like, uh-oh. And the police went over and they talked eventually they found the boy whose house it was. And he told the police that it was his parents' house. And the party stopped. Somebody put the beer away, I don't know where it went. And everybody drove home. And I just remember thinking that would never have happened that way if it had happened in Sandtown, Winchester, at North and Pennsylvania Avenues in Southwest Baltimore, right? So I highlight that to say, and I think it lives very much what you were saying, Jeff, is that just like communities have their own identities, hopes, dreams, aspirations, right? And definitions of success, right? They have the same set of expectations around how they want to be policed, right? Or how they want to be successful, right? Or what matters to them. And I think again, to go back to this survival, scarcity mindset, one of the great challenges of the 20th century is that we spent a long time narrowing the definition of success, right? In a way that was not helpful if you wanted to live in another way, right? In a way that was pernicious if you were leading a school and trying to get to a different definition of success. Like sometimes good, all the best intentions, worst results, whatever. So I think just to get to your point, Bishop, I have to hope, like you were talking about, that we, as a nation, as a people, can do better. And that our ability to do better doesn't mean that for someone to do well, someone else must necessarily do poorly.
Right.
And every time we have a discussion, particularly about schools like that probably most of the people up here went to, like, or know well, have led, whatever, or often in the press, we are in a universe where people say, if someone is successful, someone else will not be successful. And that's unfortunate, and it's wrong. And lots of kids and teachers and leaders do not get to do the thing that they want to do because of that paradigm. There it is again. Whatever. I don't mean to lean on a word that seems imprecise, but to me, like, the only way we get to a place where everybody can find their definition of success that works for them, to what I think Jeff was saying, if I may call you Jeff, is that you have to break down the lines, and the lines they're political, right? They have tremendous impact on how we fund schools, fund police, fund institutions, and all this other stuff, right? They are psychological. We have lived with them all for so long. They influence our behavior even when we don't know, and they are practical, right? They put us in this environment where, like, we don't think that more is possible, and all of those things are wrong. And in this moment in America, we need everybody to believe that all of those things can be something different.
Yes. I gotta ask. We're gonna stop. I'm not gonna keep going, but I just gotta say this. That I listened at you. Well, that was profound, man. That at some point it has to be an all-in strategy, and it cannot be they in and they out. So you're saying it's an import and export strategy, that we need to support what's there, but not limit anyone to say that's all that's your only choice. And that's very difficult to do, because I heard Brother Jeff, because there is an expectation idea that says, yeah, but it can't be yeah, but it's yeah and, all in. Right. My national executive director for urban specialists is Laura. And Laura is an educator, and a major educator by trade, so many degrees. She has more degrees than I got my last name. She just degree. She's a brilliant mind, but she was talking about what y'all just talked about. And I think that we have to just go ahead and jump all the way into this and say, no kid can be limited by where they are, but we do not abandon where they are so we can say go to where they are. Right. All of us is there, and I get that. And what Anton said, man, because I know how brilliant this young man is. It is amazing, John, how many brilliant lights are just hovering around small flames.
That's right. That's
right.
Wow. That's
we need them.
Yeah.
I wish I could. I just forgot it.
It's on camera.
It's on tape.
Hey, Bishop.
But it came from the Lord. But look. Man, it's so many, man, that and if you don't bring them out, people will really misunderstand what they're looking at.
Yeah.
They really will, man. They'll really misunderstand. Go ahead, kid.
And I just wanted to say that as it relates to violence, I've been in Chicago for the last couple of days, as I've been in other cities that we've been in around the country. And we're talking about a mental model shift and a paradigm change as it relates. We have to acknowledge when you hear on social media, you hear people, educators, and you hear policymakers talking about, that 1994 crime bill and mass incarceration, and a lot of our black men leaving from our communities, and then 20 years later coming back to our communities. Going around as it relates to violence, talking to these brothers in different neighborhoods, like the brother Vaughn and other brothers who are on the ground in these neighborhoods, really working to avert violence, whether it's in Atlanta, whether it's in Minnesota, that's really averting violence. We have to change our mindset to say, as you have taught me, that when brothers' character changes, their characteristics have a marked advantage. We need to use our brothers in schools. We need them in communities. We need them doing that, because I will go back to an experience that we had when we first did this deal. One thing that I noticed when I was 24 years old, when we went into the schools, those young people listened. the rate of violence in the school that we went into was 395 gang incidents the previous year. 2 years later, it reduced to 2. But then it got political because people said, how are these kids listening to these brothers? And then they took us out of schools. We have to have a mindset change to use our brothers and our sisters who are the most qualified and the most ones to effect change in our communities. And we have to work together for that. We have to work together for that. We have to work in hand to change some of the damage that was done to our community. And I think we can do that. We can challenge that stuff without it being an indictment on the people who may have caused it. Because we don't want to be accusatory, but we want healing and we want to be able to help our communities. I think we all have that commonality to say that we are trying to help our communities. So why can we not come together and offer these kind of solutions? So I appreciate you, Dr. John. I appreciate you, Bishop, for hosting these kind of deals that bring us together to talk about solutions and talk about changing the mental models in which some of us are under. Because lastly, I'll say this, they bust us from our neighborhood to Pleasant Grove, which is a white school, and because it was a supposedly better school, but the teachers and the principals and all those, and it was because of policy. Mm-hmm. But it was this adversarial relationship because you had all these black kids coming into this white school, right, and they weren't ready for it. So I don't forget that. But we have to continue to have these kind of conversations where we drive our commonality and bond by our commonality and bond by trying to improve and impact what's going on in our communities. And I'll end with that.
Yeah, I would end with that too. Amen. No, that's it. We're going to do it. Y'all are doing the work. It's incredible, and we're going to continue doing it, continue building coalitions, partnerships, and keep doing it. So,
would y'all please
better than that.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, John.
No, you go.
Would you please give this panel a hand and give Dr. John?
Good job, man.
Good stuff.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, man. Thank you.
Thanks,
All right, man.
That's my mentor. I appreciate it.
You know, we've had a great conversation tonight, but I do want you to know that some of these that you're listening to, they have more to offer. You know, when I reflect back on what we heard, these conversations have started, but they are not just the culmination of the whole idea. You have to talk about these critical issues if you really want to change America. You have to have partners like Stand Together. I'm so proud to be in partnership with them because they believe. This has been a great evening, but I encourage you to get into these things because we can really heal America. You know, I was thinking about how do we do it. It's funny, I didn't do this Heal America idea because we were trying to have a platform or prove a point. It was really, for me, it was a call. I just heard it. Before the George Floyd incident, before all of that, I used to stand up and tell my team, I said, I believe it's time to heal America. And they said, Bishop, what are you talking about? I said, I don't know. I just know that there is a healing needed. And then some of these other issues came up. I'll never forget when we started this, we did one in Dallas. One of my partners in this work, this guy named Gary Sutton, he said, Bishop, I heard the call too. And he said, let's figure out how do we really heal? How do we really get to a point where we can go beyond talking? And Gary started doing something called Momentum Conversations, where we have 24 people who actually get together. And we've been getting together once a month to figure out how we get into the real details. 24 individuals who are led spiritually. And they believe we can figure these things out. And these conversations have produced. In Dallas, just so you know, Mark Cuban, he stood up and said, you know what? I can contribute, get some of these brothers working. And he did it. AT&T said the same thing. Let's do it. We had the city of Dallas say, let's bring them in. See, these conversations should produce some momentum. And it shouldn't just be where we end. This is where we start. So I want you to do something. It's a call to action that we have. And we have Brian, who is here, or who is he online? I don't see if he's online, but no worries. I want to give you this idea. All right, he is online. I want to make sure he was online. I want to, he's here? Okay, well, good. There are individuals who have decided to keep this going. How do you keep it going? Well, you may want to join this momentum conversation, and I'm going to have Gary to talk about it. And there's also a group that we have that just started a partnership with us, and it's called the One America Movement. This is an organization, and their vision is to build resiliency. And Dr. Brian Williams is here, and he wants to give us a call to action with One America. See, this is not just where we are going to end with this kind of conversation, say it's good. There are ways that we can keep this going to really, really, really heal. During this time, when there was some very harsh pain going on in America, Dr. Brian Williams, who is a surgeon and an activist, decided to just step up and say, I want to do something to help. So he's going to invite us to do some things. And then you have my friend Gary Sutton, who's going to talk about this idea of having these momentum conversations. So I wanted to give them this opportunity because we're going to give you an opportunity to be in our call to action. But Gary, I see you on. It is so good to see you, my brother. We've been doing this for a minute. And, you know, we're in Chicago. You know the pain that's here. But you have been a partner with me and with us saying, Bishop, the Lord called us to do something and let's do it. You were stirred and you were moved to greatness. Tell us about these momentum conversations.
Well, first of all, Bishop, thank you for all that you're doing. It's pretty phenomenal. I'm encouraged. I believe that we can heal America. Just listening to everything tonight is so encouraging, exciting. So what happened with me, first of all, I'm a businessman. I've been a businessman for over 30 years, and I'm a believer in Jesus Christ. And I woke up the day after George Floyd, and I was doing my prayer time, and I said, Lord, what can I do here? And this idea came to my mind, and I talked to Bishop about it. It's called Momentum Conversations. And basically, if you think about it, no one has a relationship with anyone, a real relationship, if you have not sat down and broken bread with them. And so what we do is we have dinners once a month. It's an African-American church or people from the African-American various churches and white church, Christian people. We sit down, we break bread, and we talk about things. And really, it's about relationship. This whole thing is that we've talked about it many times is a love problem. You can't love somebody you don't know. You can't respect someone you don't know. And Sunday morning is one of the most divided time. You know, it's segregated. 11 o'clock Sunday morning. And so I think if you think about it, 60 to 70% of America claims to be a believer in Christ in some way or form. So my idea is to bring this powerful group who really is about love, we're about Christ, together, start a movement where we do this across America and we build relationships. And relationships and understanding, I believe, that understanding can help to begin to create equality, respect, honor. When we really truly care for somebody and we know them, we will go out of our way to make changes. And that's what we need in America. And that's how we're going to heal America. So I'm just going to say, if you don't mind, Bishop, if you want to find out more about this, you can visit momentumconversations.org, or you can just text the word momentum to 50700. We really do want to make a difference. We want to heal America. And I want to just say Bishop has been involved in this, and he's been at every one of these dinners that we've put together. We have lots of churches that are interested in it, and I really believe this is I think the only way to do these things is grassroots, and it has to be a spiritual thing. Thank you. I'm excited.
I'm excited. Y'all, please give it up for Gary Sutton. Gary, thank you, and man, thank you for doing this. And I'm in 100%, and it's been wonderful. So please go to Momentum Conversations. Really get involved. Just go on Heal America Tour. We'll guide you there. And we also have Dr. Brian Williams. Dr. Brian Williams, you are with the One America movement. You are a surgeon. You are a frontline surgeon, which I rarely hear that, but you are. But you have been really challenging us to say there is a way to make America whole again. Can you talk about what you do and why you decided to partner with Heal America?
Well, thank you very much for the invitation to be here tonight, Bishop. And yes, I'm here as the vice chair for the One America movement, which is an organization working to really deconstruct this toxic polarization that is working to destroy the ethos of our country.
Yes.
But listening to you talk about Dallas and Chicago, I realized that my prior home was in Dallas. I am now in Chicago doing this work. But what unites both of those areas is the work that One America is doing. And if you turn on the news or social media, you can be bombarded with this negativity.
Right.
And you can start to believe that we are really as divided as the news accounts will let you believe. But the reality is, if we think about it, truly, more Americans are looking for unity. They're looking for leadership that's with integrity and honesty. And at One America, we are working to bridge those gaps and bring communities together, roll up our sleeves, and work to build a better society that's just for all. So do not be dissuaded by the negativity that you're seeing. And I'm very proud to be part of this effort for One America as we do this across the country. But we can't do it alone. So we want to invite all of you out there to join us in this effort. And you can learn more by going to coronarebuild.org and sign up, and we can work together to build a better union. Again, it's coronarebuild.org. And thank you very much for having me tonight.
So I want you to please give it up for Dr. Brian Williams. Thank you, sir. Listen, he said something that was very powerful that I want you to remember. He said, don't get dissuaded by all the negativity. You have two individuals that don't know each other. We know each other from the work, obviously, but we are connected by this one idea that we cannot stay in this place. I love what Alice said earlier. She said you got to get unstuck. Sometimes we get stuck just looking at the pain and we believe that that's it. But you got to get unstuck. You got to move yourself out that place. You got to move yourself out of that place. One of my mentors, Amin Rashidi, used to tell me, no matter what happens to you, Omar, you are responsible for what you do for you. You have to be willing to go a little deeper so we can really get out of this. Gary with the Momentum Conversations, and of course, Dr. Williams with the One America Movement. You can go on any of these sites, but go on the Heal America Tour, and we'll guide you there. Now, we are not done. We are not done doing these conversations, but I told you this is the preview, just kind of giving people some of the issues that we will be facing. We'll be going to Baton Rouge in October. In December, we're going to LA. But at the end of the day, this is about healing. Somebody say healing. Say it again, say healing. Now, the healing
Thank you guys
part,
so much. You guys are clear.
Oh, somebody just said that. Was that the Lord? I didn't know the Lord was a white lady. But listen. I'm just kidding, okay? I'm just joking. Don't worry about it. Don't put that on film. I hope that went on. I offended all my funders with that. Listen. Somebody say healing. Yeah, it's time to pray. No, I want you to hear this. Seriously. Some of these things that we talk about, they get a little weighty. They get technical. Kind of have to go through the pain of figuring it out. I understand. But you cannot heal if you don't deal with it. But there has to be a spiritual element in this. Do I have a witness? We don't do this. We don't walk by sight. We walk by faith. When Alice said They told me I wasn't gonna get out except my family carry me out. Do you know how hard it is every day to think I'm gonna die in here? When you see somebody like Amir who is saying, man, I was on top of the world making millions of dollars and now I'm in prison. And he comes out better and not bitter. I got a young man that's in here today. His name is Gary Walker. Gary Walker was sent to prison when he was 16 years old. He was he was charged at 15, and he was sentenced at 16. He had to do 21 years for a crime he did not commit. Hear me. For a crime he did not commit. 21 years that brother did, and we're working for his exoneration. We call him Vito. But at the end of the day, Vito, I said, Vito, how did you make it day in, day out? He said, Bishop, at some point I had to say, God, I can't fight the system, but I can change me. And the more I change me, more doors can open. I had to heal from the inside because I was hurting. I've heard it so many times, and I believe transformation is real. And you know, so at the end of the day, after we do all of this policy and ideas, and I love it, there has to be a radical change on the inside so that we can truly heal, so we won't just be mad at the issues, but that we go beyond it. And so right now, this is what I want you to do. I want to ask a question. Even though this has been tough, we had to go through it, how many of you believe that we can heal? Let me see your hand. Everybody raise your hand if you believe that there's a healing possible in here. You who are online, I want to know, do you believe that we can heal? Thank you. You who believe it, I want you to understand this, that it's not by power nor by might, but it's by the Spirit. Our spirit has to be renewed. And normally I give a call to action, but today I'm going to ask Faith to come up. And I'm going to ask this brother Paul Shepard. He's the worship leader for Potter's House. Faith is my chief of staff. But I asked them to come up during this time and just carry us into a moment, and then we'll be released in a moment.
Dismayed, you strengthen me. I won't let sickness get the best of me. It's in His word that we have the victory.
I'm not afraid of the terror by night. I'm not afraid of the arrow by day. I won't be shaken by the enemy. It's in His word we have the victory. Oh,
this too shall pass. This too shall pass. With trouble on every side, no, it won't last. This too shall pass. This too shall pass. It's in His word that we have the victory. Oh, this too shall pass.
Yeah. How many of y'all believe we got the victory? Woo. Listen. We're going to close right here. But can y'all say that we decree again? Can y'all say that again? Listen. Say we decree.
And we agree.
Yeah.
So we decree. And we agree. So we decree. Yes, we agree. Yes, we agree. So we decree. Yes, we agree. We have the victory. There's nothing too hard for God. There's nothing too hard for God. There's nothing too hard for God.
I'm going to ask everyone here. I don't know what your faith is, but I want you to bow your heads. Just for a moment, everybody bow your heads. God, give us the grace and the strength to do this. This may be a little difficult, but we believe that you can lift us above this problem. Strengthen every one of these who are here, those who may not know that there is a healing coming. It's somebody right now that needs to believe it. Strengthen us one by one, name by name. Let us all connect beyond tonight. Let tonight be a start of something better, something bigger. And strengthen us. And then those who are broken now in America, let them all be healed. Let them hear the sound of change. Beyond all the other things that we've heard on yesterday, on days before, let us hear a sound of change and let us believe it. We decree it, and it is so. And it is so. And it is so. Amen. I want to thank everybody for coming out. We appreciate you. We know that this is just the beginning, but please go to HealAmericaTour.com. HealAmericaTour.com. We'll give you more about our solutions. We'll give you a call to action. Go to HealAmericaTour.com. We thank you for coming out. Be blessed. Be safe. Have a great night. Thank you. Thank you.
We have the victory. We have